Chapter 1567. Start the battle 1. Zhuowen's voice was very soft and gentle, but it was unusually firm. He did not hide his voice. Now, the woman he had been dreaming about day and night was right in front of him. He didn't want to hide anymore. He wanted to take her away openly. Whoosh! Although Zhuowen's voice was soft, the warriors present weren't ordinary people. Naturally, they heard Zhuowen's words clearly. Of course, since they were all from the southern barbarian forces, they were unfamiliar with Zhuowen's name. Their eyes were filled with doubt. Zhuowen? Isn't his name Miefan? Why is he calling himself Zhuowen now? The leaders of the forces present were puzzled and couldn't help but ask. Some warriors' eyes flickered as if they had other thoughts. Some warriors had heard some rumors and understood. Zhou Tianzong's body trembled. His eyes widened as he stared at Zhuowen's back. His face changed from red to green, then from green to purple. Finally he roared, "You're Zhuowen?" Zhou Tianzong's rage also attracted the attention of others. Many people were puzzled as to why Zhou Tianzong was so angry. Hu Bengtian and Yuan Jibai looked at each other. Yuan Jibai frowned and said to Hu Bengtian, "Could that Zhuowen be the Ryuka Zhuowen that Zhou Tianzong mentioned?" Hu Bengtian and Yuan Jibai had heard a lot about Zhuowen from Zhou Tianzong. They knew that the Ryuka that destroyed the Blue Dragon Hall in the Eastern Lands had risen from Zhuowen's hands. Where did he get the Primal Chaos Temple's token? Hu Bengtian asked doubtfully. Yuan Jibai shook her head. She did not know either. The sky insects had appeared in the east, and they did not know the details of that battle. So they were very confused. Zhuowen was not a disciple of the Chaos Temple, but he had the Chaos Temple's identity medallion. However, Zhuowen knew that Chao Rong, a disciple of the Primal Chaos Temple, had been killed by Heavenly Insect in the Battle of the Eastern Lands. Most likely, Chao Rong's identity token had been obtained by Zhuowen. Moreover, Miefan's behavior was extremely unusual. Now that Miefan was hugging Mu Qinxue and taking the initiative to say his name, Zhou Tianzong knew that Miefan was not playing with him. This guy's real identity was Zhuowen. Extinguish, 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 extinguish. Do you want to extinguish my burning heaven sect? What a tyrannical name. Zhou Tianzong snorted and stepped out with his right foot. With the dark flame brush in his hand, he drew a long black line in the sky and dashed toward Zhuowen. Boom! A sacred mountain suddenly appeared in front of Zhou Tianzong. When the terrifying black flame hit the sacred mountain, it only made it tremble slightly. Then it became as steady as Mount Tai. Zhou Tianzong retreated a few hundred steps. He stared coldly at Lowe's on the sacred mountain and said, "Get out of my way!" With that, Zhou Tianzong no longer held back. He pointed the dark flame brush in the air and sketched out the images of strange birds and strange beasts. These strange birds and strange beasts rushed out, as if they had materialized. Using the black flame as a medium, they all pounced on the giant sacred mountain. "Do you think I'm afraid of you?" Lo sneered and imprisoned Prince Raven and Jiang Liqing. Then, he threw them into the inner world of the 18th mountain. Then, Lo's pointed the sword finger of his right hand at the surface of the 18th mountain. Suddenly, a brilliant light filled the air, and the 18th mountain shrank into a long rod. Bang! 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 Liao Si swung the long rod in his right hand. His body moved along with the rod. Immediately, rod shadows poured out from all over the sky. The countless number of strange birds and beasts that were formed from the black flame that were rushing over exploded one after another. Swoosh! After destroying the countless strange birds and strange beasts, Lo's descended from the sky like a flood and arrived in front of Zhou Tianzong in an instant. With a swing of his rod, thousands of shadows appeared and shattered the sky and earth. It was extremely terrifying. Zhou Tianzong's face turned ugly. He had underestimated Lo's strength. He didn't expect this guy to be so strong. His attack with the dark flame brush was destroyed so easily. 18 Black Flame Envoys, listen up. I order you to take down Zhuowen with the upper echelons of the sect. You are allowed to kill him. Zhou Tianzong shouted angrily. Listen up. In the sky, the huge black phoenix stretched its neck and let out a long cry. Then, it suddenly fell and landed not far from Zhuowen, splitting into 18 figures. They were the 18 Black Flame Envoys. The 18 black flame envoys stood in 18 different directions, glaring at Zhuowen, who was hugging Mu Chenxue. Behind the 18 black flame envoys, powerful figures vaguely appeared. There were more than 100 of them. These figures had a vast aura, and their saint might was like a mountain. There was no doubt that the more than 100 figures that appeared were all half-step saints. Of course, there were also a few profound sage-level saints among them. What a terrifying lineup. The Burning Sky sect has hidden so deeply. They actually hid so many experts. Looking at the countless shadows, the masters of the various forces in the Burning Heaven Square were shocked. On the surface, the experts of the Burning Heaven sect were only Zhou Tianzong and the 18 black flame envoys. Although it was rumored that the Burning Heaven sect had a lot of half-step saints, it didn't exceed 100. But now, the number of experts that appeared on the surface had exceeded 100. With so many experts, it was enough to destroy any force in the southern barbarian lands. Even Yuan Jibai and Hu Benshan had astonished expressions on their faces. Clearly, they were a little shocked by the true background of the Burning Sky sect. At this moment, Zhou Tianzong looked at Yuan Jibai and Hu Dunshan and said in a deep voice, "Sister Jibai, Brother Dunshan, I told you that Zhuowen has an immortal sacred artifact. He was able to make Ryuka rise so quickly and destroy the Blue Dragon Hall in such a short time because of that immortal sacred artifact. Moreover, the Blue Dragon Hall was destroyed because of him. You won't just sit and watch, right?" Whoosh whoosh. Hu Dunshan and Yuan Jibai looked at each other and smiled. Sect leader Zhou is right. The Blue Dragon Hall is the overlord of the Eastern Land. As the overlords of the 4 territories, we should work together and help each other. Since this Zhuowen is the leader of Ryuka and is the culprit behind the destruction of the Blue Dragon Hall, the overlords of the 4 territories naturally have the obligation to work together and uphold justice for the Blue Dragon Hall. Hu Dunshan stomped his right foot, and a monstrous saint energy soared into the sky like a long bridge that covered the sky. The saint energy became more and more terrifying, and it transformed into the shadow of a huge white tiger. Hu Dunshan leaped up and brought many members of the ferocious tiger sect to the sky and rushed to Zhou Tianzong's side. Yuan Jibai summoned the snow chariot and carried the people of the snow palace. She followed closely behind Hu Dunshan and landed beside Zhou Tianzong. This time, Hu Dunshan and Yuan Jibai did not bring many people. Hu Dunshan brought 30 people, and Yuan Jibai brought more, a total of 50 people. Although there were not many people, each of them was an elite. The weakest among them was a demi-saint. After all, they were the overlords of the Western region and the Northern Territory respectively. However, the people that Hu Dunshan and Yuan Jibai brought together were still not comparable to the lineup that Zhou Tianzong had sent. This showed how powerful the Burning Heaven sect was. "Haha, you want to bully me with numbers? I Mize will accompany you." A wild laughter was heard. Mize and Lu Si rushed over with the 16th mountain and the 17th mountain respectively. They stood in front of Zhou Tianzong and his people in a wild and unrestrained manner. The Burning Heaven sect, the Ferocious Tiger sect, and the Snow Palace have joined forces. 3 overlords working together can probably crush everything. It's too terrifying. When the Burning Heaven sect, the Ferocious Tiger sect, and the Snow Palace displayed their respective forces, many forces in the surrounding seats were moved and revealed a look of fear. If the 3 overlord forces joined forces, they would be able to kill anyone in the 4 major regions. Such a combined force was enough to annihilate all the forces in the Burning Sky Plaza. Everyone knew that Zhuowen was probably finished. Even if this kid had 3 assistants with terrifying strengths by his side, it was undoubtedly like an ant trying to shake a tree when facing 3 overlord powers, and he was overestimating his ability. On the other side, the 18 Black Flame envoys led the numerous experts of the Burning Heaven sect to surround Zhuowen and Mu Chenxue. The Black Phoenix was wrapped in black flames that covered the sky like a dark cloud. Let go of the Saintess and cripple your own cultivation. Perhaps you will still have a chance to live. The first Black Flame envoy's gaze was cold as he looked down at Zhuowen, who was hugging Mu Chenxue. His muffled, thunderous voice resounded, rumbling in everyone's ears. The 18 Black Flame envoys have formed the Black Flame Array. This array is very dangerous. Even an ordinary Heavenly Saint expert might not be able to resist it. Quickly run. Mu Chenxue gently pushed Zhuowen away. Her expression returned to normal. Her beautiful eyes stared at the strange yet familiar youth in front of her with a complicated look. Finally, she sighed softly and said, "Then are you willing to go with me?" Zhuowen said with a smile. Hearing this, Mu Chenxue's beautiful eyes flickered. She whispered, "You do give me a familiar feeling. But did we really know each other before? What was our relationship before?" Hearing Mu Chenxue's slightly doubtful words, Zhuowen's heart ached. His facial muscles began to contract and change, returning to his original appearance. He stroked Mu Chenxue's hair and said softly, "Perhaps you don't know me now, but I can tell you that we were once the most intimate people. We were lovers. You are my lover. I said that I would take you away. I will do it now. The Burning Heaven sect can't stop me." Speaking till here, the entire Burning Sky Plaza started to violently tremble. Those seats that were floating above the plaza started to violently tremble under this terrifying tremor. Some of the seats even shattered, and the martial artists that were sitting on them fell down from their seats. Following which, the crowd in the seats were astonished to discover that a terrifyingly huge palace was slowly emerging in the void behind Zhuowen. On the surface of this palace, a huge dragon shadow appeared. The dragon shadow swallowed the heavens and the earth, shaking the earth. What a huge palace! What kind of palace is this? In the seats, many martial artists retreated as they stared at the Azure Dragon Palace that had suddenly appeared. Swoosh! Swoosh! Chapter 1568. Begin 2. Many figures gathered around Zhuowen like dark clouds, surrounding him like a tortoise shell. They seemed to be protecting Zhuowen. Long Tian pays his respects to Lord Longwen. Long Tian took a step forward, kneeling on one knee in front of Zhuowen, as he shouted respectfully, "Rustle, rustle, rustle." The moment Long Tian knelt on the ground, the many powerful figures behind him also knelt on the ground and shouted excitedly, "Greetings to Lord Longwen." His voice was like a thunderclap that shot into the sky, and it was deafening as it reverberated endlessly. What a terrifying formation. This Zhuowen has so many experts behind him, and all of them have the surname Long. Could they be the Ryuka from the Eastern lands? That can't be. Wasn't the Ryuka destroyed 10,000 years ago? How could they appear again? It's said that they've risen again. And haven't you heard of the great upheaval in the Eastern lands? When the Ryuka experts rushed out of the Blue Dragon Hall, many cultivators were moved. At the same time, some of the more informed cultivators recalled the great upheaval in the Eastern lands. Although they didn't know the exact situation of this great upheaval, they knew that the Azure Dragon Palace, the overlord of the Eastern land, had undergone a great change in this great upheaval. It seemed that it had been replaced by a new force. When Zhuowen and the other Ryuka experts arrived, some of the people who had guessed the truth were enlightened. They knew that the rumors of the destruction of the Blue Dragon Hall weren't groundless, and should be true. This was because the strength of the experts sent out by the Ryuka was terrifying, and they weren't any weaker than the Burning Heaven sect. No wonder they could destroy the Blue Dragon Hall. However, now that the Burning Heaven sect had joined forces with the Ferocious Tiger sect and the Snow Palace, the Ryuka alone might not be able to contend against them. Dragon Soul cultivators, come out and set up the Blue Dragon formation. Tear off all the feathers of that black bird in the sky. Let's see if he can still be so arrogant. Zhuowen said to the people in the group, and immediately, dozens of figures walked out side by side, and stood not far behind Long Tian. Release the Dragon Soul's formation. Long Tian shouted, and a dragon roar sounded from his body, and 1,000 feet long dragon soared into the sky. Awa! Awa! The moment Long Tian released his Dragon Soul, the dozens of Dragon Soul warriors also released their own Dragon Souls. These Dragon Souls soared into the sky and intertwined with each other. In the end, they transformed into a huge pale dragon that was hundreds of thousands of feet long. The Blue Dragon formation was inspired by the Sapphire Shore's 9 Saints Dragon formation by Zhuowen, and it was a powerful formation that he had deduced in the Blue Dragon Hall for the past 90 years. As for why so many dragon soul cultivators suddenly appeared in Ryuka, the main reason was that Zhuowen and Long Xiaotian had obtained the dragon souls from the sapphire shore hidden in the Blue Dragon Hall's secret cave, and had been infused into the bodies of the talented Ryuka's younger generation. It was because of this that so many dragon soul cultivators suddenly appeared in Ryuka, and the power of the Blue Dragon formation, formed by so many dragon souls, was unimaginable. Go! Kill that black mixed bird. As soon as the blue dragon appeared, it soared into the sky and headed straight for the Black Phoenix. The 18 black flame envoys hidden in the Black Phoenix were all enraged, and the veins on their foreheads bulged. The black flame formation that they had set up was the noble Black Phoenix, and now it was called a black bird. How could they tolerate it? Die! The 18 black flame envoys roared, and the Black Phoenix let out a long cry. Black flames burned the sky, and the eagle soared into the sky at lightning speed. Rumble! The black flames were like blades, and they instantly cut through the void and landed in front of the blue dragon. However, the blue dragon was also powerful, and a dragon claw slammed down with the weight of a mountain, and it tore the black flames apart. Boom! 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 In an instant, the Black Phoenix and the blue dragon collided. The blue dragon's claw swept across the sky, but the Black Phoenix was not afraid, and it flapped its wings. The two fought until the sky darkened, and the sun and moon dimmed. That kind of power made many martial artists secretly smack their lips. In order to avoid an unexpected disaster, many of them retreated, and were unwilling to get close to the burning sky square. However, the Black Phoenix and the blue dragon were apprehensive, and they did not fight near the ground. Instead, they soared into the sky for thousands of miles. The cries of the dragon and the cries of the phoenix soared into the sky, penetrating the gold and splitting the stone. The magnificent scene of the dragon and the phoenix fighting shook the entire vast territory of the southern barbarian. Even in the southern barbarian's border region, there were martial artists who could vaguely hear the cries of the dragon and the phoenix that seemed to be able to penetrate everything. Attack! Slaughter all these Ryuka people, and everyone here. This is the Ryuka that destroyed the Blue Dragon Hall. That hall is the legendary immortal sacred artifact. If you can help the Burning Heaven sect to take down the immortal sacred artifact, everyone will have a share of the treasures inside. Zhou Tianzong's face was slightly gloomy, and he couldn't help but turn his head to look at the burning sky square. This time, there were 50 to 60 forces that participated in the marriage alliance between the Burning Heaven sect and the Snow Palace. If they really joined forces with the Burning Heaven sect, they would be a terrifying force. Immortal Sacred Artifact? This hall is actually an immortal sacred artifact? Hall-type sacred artifacts are generally immortal sacred artifacts. They don't have any offensive power, but I'm afraid they contain endless treasures. If we join forces with the Burning Heaven sect, we won't even get a share of the immortal sacred artifact if we miss this opportunity. In the seats, the leaders of the various forces revealed excitement and greed in their eyes. In their view, the Burning Heaven sect, the Fierce Tiger sect, and the Snow Palace, these three overlords had joined forces. So what if the Ryuka was strong? Their final fate would be a crushing defeat. Perhaps some of the leaders of the various forces knew that Zhou Tianzong was using them as cannon fodder. The temptation of the immortal sacred artifact was very tempting. Even if they couldn't get the immortal sacred artifact in the end, they might have a chance to obtain the treasures inside. After all, many of the experts in the Ryuka had a lot of profound sacred artifacts in their hands. Even the Burning Heaven sect might not be able to take out so many profound sacred artifacts, but the Ryuka was equipped with so many of them. There was no doubt that these profound sacred artifacts were obtained from the Azure Dragon Hall. This made many cultivators restless. They knew that as long as they could seize the Azure Dragon Hall, they would seize a treasure trove. Moreover, this treasure trove was very likely to contain countless treasures. Even if they could only get a share of the loot, it would still be a great benefit for them. This was also the main reason why many forces were tempted, even though they knew Zhou Tianzong's sinister intentions. Let's kill them. As long as we capture Zhuowen, we will obtain the Azure Dragon Hall. At that time, I, Zhou Tianzong, We'll guarantee that everyone will have a share of the treasures inside, Zhou Tianzong said patiently. What a despicable old man. You actually incited a group of people to be buried with the Burning Heaven sect. In any case, you're a major force in the southern barbarian lands. You're tempted by such an instigation? Then I can only say that you're as stupid as pigs. Zhuowen warned as he narrowed his eyes and stared coldly at the tempted forces of the southern barbarian lands. I think you're afraid. Everyone, let's go. It's a immortal sacred artifact. Even if it's a treasure inside a immortal sacred artifact, do you think we can obtain it if we don't have the opportunity? This is an opportunity in front of us. If we don't seize it, we'll regret it in the future. Suddenly, a black-robed old man on the Dark Crow sect's seat shouted. This old man should be an elder of the Dark Crow sect. However, as soon as the black-robed old man finished speaking, a big hand stretched out from the void behind him and pinched him. Pucci, the black-robed old man's eyes widened. He could not help but look behind him. He saw a figure slowly walking out from the shattered void behind him. This figure was none other than Zhuowen. You, how can you be so fast? How is this possible? The black-robed old man asked in disbelief. Don't you know the law of the void? Zhuowen said indifferently. With a squeeze of his right hand, the black-robed old man screamed miserably and exploded into a rain of blood. Even his nascent soul could not escape. Zhuowen's elusive speed sent chills down the spines of many cultivators. After all, Zhuowen, who had mastered the law of the void, was like a fish in water in the void. Everyone of the Burning Heaven sect, listen up. Stop Zhuowen, and all of you from the southern barbarian lands. Don't be afraid of anything. Assist the Burning Heaven sect and take down Zhuowen. You'll be rewarded handsomely when the time comes, Zhou Tianzong shouted sternly. That's right. Let's kill him. We have so many people. So what if he has mastered the law of the void? If we seal the space and have so many people, do you think we'll be afraid of him? In an instant, the forces of the southern barbarian lands regained their courage and began to gather together. The power of the law spread out above the void and formed a defensive circle that resembled a spider web. This spider web-like defensive circle was densely packed and spread all over the surroundings. As long as Zhuowen used the law of the void to pass through, they would instantly detect him and attack him together. Sister Jibai, Brother Hanshan, send your people over as well. Today, we must take down Zhuowen, Zhou Tianzong said, his eyes full of killing intent. Yuan Jibai and Hu Danshan looked at each other. Then, the two of them sent Xianzi and Hu Lai to bring the experts of their respective forces to meet up with the experts of the Burning Sky sect and the other major forces of the southern barbarian lands. These powerhouses added up to at least 700 or 800 people, and all of them had mastered the law of the void. In other words, the weakest among them was an invincible emperor lord. On the other hand, on the Long family's side, there were only about 100 half-step sages and a few profound sages. The Dragon Soul cultivator was currently fighting against the 18 Black Flame envoys and was badly battered. Whoosh! Whoosh! Zhuowen floated in front of the Ryuka team as 5 figures swept behind him. These 5 figures were none other than Lu Hantian Kanan, Gatha, Emo Yin Wushang, and Emo Lingtian. Chapter 1569. The burning flame tower had collapsed. Big Brother Hantian, be careful. Zhuowen looked at Lu Hantian and the other 4 and cautioned them. Lu Hantian and the other 4 nodded slightly. Soon, their attention fell on the beautiful figure in the phoenix dress not far away, and their eyes lit up. Zhuowen, congratulations. You're finally reunited with your sister-in-law. Lu Hantian laughed. The other 4 also smiled. They knew very well that the main purpose of this trip was Mu Qinxue. Now that the 2 of them were reunited, the 5 of them were relieved. Zhuowen forced a smile, but did not explain that Mu Qinxue had lost her memory. Miefun, you little bastard, weren't you very arrogant before? Today, I'll let you be arrogant enough. Let's attack together and kill this kid. Kill everyone in Ryuka. At this moment, Xiozha and Tiger Split were leading a majestic group of experts as they rushed over. Whether it was the Burning Heaven sect, the Ferocious Tiger sect, the Snow Palace, or the other forces in the southern wilderness, They were all gathered together by him. Although many forces in the southern wilderness joined the crusade out of greed, there were also a few forces who knew that they were not strong enough, so they did not get involved. The Nine Saints' Heavenly Gate was one of those few forces. Today's Burning Sky City is about to change. Bing Yu Han Yu, the two of you follow me and leave Burning Sky City quickly. The Nine Saints' Heavenly Gate will not interfere with anyone or anything here. The Empyrean Saint waved his sleeve and led Xia Bingyu, Han Yu, and the people from the Nine Saints' Heavenly Gate away from the Burning Sky Plaza. Although Xia Bingyu was still a little worried about Zhuowen, she knew that her words carried little weight, and the Nine Saints' Heavenly Gate would not interfere in this matter. So there was nothing she could do to help. Other than the Nine Saints' Heavenly Gate, the other forces that did not participate in this matter also stayed far away and did not dare to come close. It's just a motley crew. What's the use of having more people? Lu Hantian sneered and continued. Everyone, bring out your real weapons and kill this motley crew. As soon as Lu Hantian spoke, nearly 100 Ryuka half-step saints took out their profound saint artifacts. Some of them even had more than one profound saint artifact, one offensive saint artifact, and one defensive saint artifact. Every half-saint is equipped with a profound sage artifact. Isn't this too extravagant? The expressions of Xiaozhe and Hulai stiffened. The many cultivators behind them were also slightly startled. Generally speaking, when a cultivator reached the profound saint realm, the major forces would give them a profound sage artifact at their discretion. However, it was unlikely that they would be given a half-saint, unless they were the descendants of a major force, or an extremely important junior. When they were half-saints, they might have a profound sage artifact. But now nearly 100 Ryuka half-step saints each had a profound sage artifact, and some of the younger cultivators even had 2 profound sage artifacts at the same time. How rich must they be to be able to take out so many profound sage artifacts to equip their subordinates? Kill! Long Tian raised his arm and shouted, along with Lu Hantian and the other 4. Nearly 100 profound sage artifacts bloomed with a breathtaking power. Don't be afraid. We have more people. If we work together, we won't be afraid of these Ryuka cultivators. Xiaozhe quickly calmed down and shouted, beginning to mobilize the many cultivators behind him. The elite disciples of the Burning Heaven sect, the Fierce Tiger sect, and the Snow Palace naturally obeyed. However, the cultivators of the southern barbarian forces all had their own ulterior motives, but they did not dare to disobey Xiaozhe's orders. Rumble! In an instant, the two teams collided, and the scene of hundreds and thousands of people fighting took place in the sky above Burning Heaven City. Moreover, all of them were rare experts, and the battle was extremely spectacular. Although the Ryuka side was equipped with profound sage artifacts, they were at a disadvantage in terms of numbers. Therefore, in this collision they were evenly matched. As for Xiaozhe and Tiger Break, they were like fish in water. They joined forces and wantonly slaughtered the Ryuka team. Although Lu Hantian and the other 4 had joined forces to block them, they were barely able to do so. These 2 were peak profound sage realm cultivators, and their battle strength was comparable to the Sky In Saint realm. When they joined forces, they were unstoppable. Of course, during the battle, Xiaozhe and Tiger Break were constantly paying attention to Zhuowen's movements. If Zhuowen showed any signs of interfering, the 2 of them would immediately retreat. The 2 of them were very clear about how terrifying Zhuowen's strength was. Lo's Tianzong, who collapsing mountain, and Yuan Jibai were facing each other from a distance. The 6 of them did not fight, but were wary of each other. Xiaozhe, Tiger Break, I originally wanted to spare your lives, but since you want to die so much, I, Zhuowen, will fulfill your wishes. Zhuowen's eyes were extremely cold. He took a step forward and rushed towards Xiaozhe and Tiger Break at lightning speed. Xiaozhe and Hulai looked at each other and retreated without the slightest hesitation. The direction they were retreating towards was the Burning Sky Hall. Void! Zhuowen entered the void and approached the 2 of them, as if he had teleported. However, Tiger Break directly used the Heavenly Tiger Escape technique and arrived at the Burning Sky Hall with Xiaozhe first. You still want to leave? Zhuowen also took a step into the large hall. However, Xiaozhe and Hu Lai laughed coldly the moment he stepped into the large hall. "Idiot, you've been tricked." Xiaozhe laughed aloud. He formed a seal with his hands, and the burning heaven hall immediately shattered. A huge hand covered in black flames extended from it and grabbed at Zhuowen. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed slightly as he threw a punch at the large hand. However, he was surprised to find that the large hand did not move at all. It was as hard as iron and stone, and the remaining force of the punch did not decrease in the slightest as it landed on his body. Thump! Thump! Zhuowen grunted and took a few steps back. He stared at the hand with a frown. That old dog Zhou Tianzong's scheme? Zhuowen understood when he saw the smugness in Xiaozhe's eyes and the smile on Zhou Tianzong's face. So what if it's a scheme? This burning heaven hand is the biggest secret of the burning heaven hall. It's enough to kill any Sun Sky Saint Plane expert. So what if you're strong? You'll still die. Zhou Tianzong cackled. Xiaohei, stop it. Zhuowen took a deep breath and summoned his dragon soul. When the Great Abyss Saint Dragon's 100,000-foot-long body appeared in the void, it shocked many people. The Great Abyss Saint Dragon swung its tail and smashed the huge sky-burning hand. Zhuowen used the law of the void and instantly appeared in front of Xianze and Tiger Break. The power of his saint body was unleashed, which made the two tremble and forget to defend themselves. Pfft! At this moment, Tiger Break and Xiaozhe were no match for Zhuowen. Under the attack of Zhuowen's saint body, they could not hold on for long before their bodies collapsed and died. Zhou Tianzong's face stiffened when he saw Tiger Break and Xiaozhe die. He was in disbelief. When did Zhuowen's dragon soul become so strong? It had smashed the burning heaven hand. Yuan Jibai and Hu Bushan were even more furious. The two of them had almost lost their minds. They used their strongest techniques and sacred artifacts, intending to charge over and pay for Zhuowen's life. However, the two of them were blocked by Mais and Lu Si. The battle was on the verge of breaking out. At this moment, the Great Abyss Saint Dragon flew up and instantly arrived at the battlefield of the Black Phoenix and the Azure Dragon. It swung its dragon claws and slammed into the Black Phoenix. The Black Phoenix collapsed, and the 18 black flame envoys hidden inside were all killed. Zhuowen no longer held back. He waved his right hand, and the spirit-swallowing lava river expanded infinitely, as if it could burn the sky and the earth. Zhuowen punched the void and sent in the endless spirit-swallowing lava river. Then, the void between the two teams suddenly split open. The two sides immediately retreated. Ah! What a terrifying lava! Run! The endless lava river gushed out of the central void crack, drowning the martial artists of the Burning Heaven sect and the other four forces who were caught off guard. Miserable screams resounded, sounding extremely horrifying. The spirit-swallowing lava river was a heaven-defying saint artifact. Zhuowen had unleashed the might of the spirit-swallowing lava river to the extreme. It could almost burn the sky. Coupled with the sudden transmission of the void laws, the martial artists of the Burning Heaven sect and the other four forces were all caught in the lava. Splash! The river of magma flowed rapidly in the void. Finally, it slowly shrank, turning into a belt that was fastened to Zhuowen's waist. The martial artists of the Burning Heaven sect and the other four forces, who were originally submerged in the lava, had all disappeared. They had all been devoured by the spirit-swallowing lava river. In the blink of an eye, the 18 black flame envoys had fallen. The martial artists of the Burning Heaven sect, the Ferocious Tiger sect, the Ice Snow Palace, and the other forces of the southern barbarian lands had all died. This happened too quickly, so quickly that many people didn't even have time to react. Rumble! When the entire Burning Sky City had sunk into silence, an earth-shattering sound came from the Burning Flame Pagoda not far away, following which, the Burning Flame Pagoda, that had been in the middle of Burning Sky City for thousands of years, collapsed. The Burning Flame Pagoda collapsed? The collapse of the Burning Flame Pagoda attracted everyone's attention. The surface of the Burning Flame Pagoda was riddled with holes. Countless figures rushed out from the Burning Flame Pagoda. We're free. After imprisoning me for hundreds of thousands of years, I'm finally free. Wild roars came from the Burning Flame Pagoda. These were all the criminals of the Burning Heaven sect that had been imprisoned in the burning flame pagoda for thousands of years. But at this moment these criminals were all released. Who did it? Zhou Tianzong's face turned extremely pale. The burning flame pagoda had collapsed, the 18 black flame envoys had fallen, and hundreds of elites of the Burning Heaven sect had died in the hands of Zhuowen. This was more than half of the foundation of the Burning Heaven sect, and it was all destroyed just like that. I did it. A loud and clear voice came from the direction of the burning flame pagoda. A twin-headed nether dragon, that was close to 10,000 feet long, flew over. 5 figures stood on the twin-headed nether dragon's head. The person in the lead was a man in his 30s with a resolute and handsome face. He had a tall and straight posture. In his hand was a small sword that was engraved with numerous blood-colored seals. It was a heaven-defying saint artifact, the sword of 10,000 sacrifices. Long Xiaotian and Feng Xiao. Chapter 1570. Mind-splitting, the previous holy maiden of the Burning Heaven sect, Feng Xiao? Due to the collapse of the Burning Flame Tower, the battle in the Burning Heaven Plaza came to a halt. The onlookers turned to look at the two-headed nether dragon that was flying towards them. The southern barbarian forces that knew their limits and chose not to besiege Zhuowen were secretly rejoicing in their hearts. They knew that if they had been incited by Zhuowen to besiege Zhuowen, their fates would have been very miserable. When the Burning Flame Tower collapsed, the previous holy maiden of the Burning Heaven sect was rescued. Furthermore, the one who rescued Feng Xiao was a dragon soul cultivator. Without a doubt, this was the arrangement of the Ryuka. At this moment, all the forces in the Burning Heaven city were shocked to discover that the strength of the Ryuka was far beyond their imagination. Feng Xiao was a taboo in the Burning Heaven city. It was said that more than 20 years ago, Feng Xiao was brought back by the higher-ups of the Burning Heaven sect because of a scandal and was imprisoned in the Burning Flame Tower. For the past 20 years, the Burning Heaven sect had been deliberately guiding the Burning Heaven city cultivators to forget about Feng Xiao. Without a doubt, with the power of the Burning Heaven sect, they were able to do it. Now there were very few people who knew about Feng Xiao. However, the southern barbarian forces like the Nine Saints Heavenly Sect knew about Feng Xiao's name, and also knew about the traces of what happened back then. Zhuowen raised his head slightly and stared at the beautiful figure nestled in the arms of the Long Xiaotian. The coldness in his eyes slowly turned into a smile. This woman looked to be around 23 or 24 years old. She was dressed in a gauzy gown, and her skirt was like a swallow's tail. Her autumn eyes were as gentle as water and contained endless gentleness. This was a gentle woman. Her gentleness could melt the heart of any evil person with a heart of stone. Her gentleness was natural and generous, and had a strange charm that could make people sink forever. Zhuowen knew that this gentle woman in front of him was his birth mother. Perhaps because she felt Zhuowen's gaze, Feng Xiao's jade-like neck turned slightly, and her pair of beautiful eyes fell on Zhuowen. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly, and that smile was inextricably warm, very clean, and very comfortable. Is it Zhuowen? Are you Zhuowen? In the blink of an eye, you're already so big. Although this is the first time I've seen you, your aura is the same as when you were a child. It hasn't changed. Feng Xiao's cherry lips slowly opened and closed as she said softly. Upon hearing that gentle voice, Zhuowen's entire body trembled. For some unknown reason, his eyes became misty, and his nose felt a little sour. To Zhuowen, mother, whether it was in his previous life or this life, was a sacred word. Everything that had happened to him had started from his mother. It was his mother who had given him a new life. Even though Zhuowen had never met his biological mother since he was born, the same blood flowed in their veins. Blood ties were thicker than water, and it was difficult for time to dilute them. Whoosh! Zhuowen's right foot stepped into the void, and instantly arrived on the two-headed netherworld dragon's head. Standing in front of Feng Xiao, he knelt on one knee and said in a deep voice, "Zhuowen greets mother." Feng Xiao slowly squatted down and gently cupped Zhuowen's face. A pair of ice-cold palms slowly stroked Zhuowen's face as she said, "My son has grown up and is so handsome. I haven't been by your side for 20 years. I've made you suffer." Speaking up to here, Feng Xiao gently hugged Zhuowen in her arms. There was a trace of sobbing, a trace of guilt, and even a trace of reluctance. Zhuowen's heart trembled. He also gently hugged Feng Xiao and said with a smile, "Mother, you weren't by my side voluntarily. You must have suffered for 20 years. Long Xiaotian put his hands on Zhuowen and Feng Xiao's shoulders, his eyes slightly red. For more than 20 years, this was the first time the family of three was reunited. This scene had appeared in his mind countless times, and today, it had finally come true. The former holy maiden of the Burning Heaven sect is Zhuowen's mother. No wonder Zhuowen came to the Burning Heaven sect. I'm afraid the main reason is Feng Xiao. In addition to Feng Xiao, it should also be Mu Qinxue. I heard that the current holy maiden Mu Qinxue fell in love with a man when she was training in the Eastern Land. It was for this reason that the Burning Heaven sect mustered a lot of people to bring Mu Qinxue back. Looking at the scene of the family of three being reunited, many people understood the main reason why Zhuowen came to the Burning Heaven sect to make trouble. His mother and lover were in the Burning Heaven sect. As long as he wasn't a cold-blooded and heartless person, how could he not come to save them? Many people in Ryuka looked at this scene and couldn't help revealing a smile. Lu Hantian laughed, feeling happy that Zhuowen's family could be reunited. Zhou Tianzong's face was gloomy to the extreme. This time he had completely miscalculated. He had miscalculated that Zhuowen would dare to take the initiative to come to the Burning Heaven sect. He also didn't expect that Zhuowen would become so strong, and that his development of Ryuka would reach such a terrifying scale. Especially the three mountain gods in front of him. Even if he joined forces with Tiger Collapsing Mountain and Yuan Jibai, they couldn't gain the slightest advantage. Zhuowen, I heard from Xiaotian that your little lover is also the holy maiden of the Burning Heaven sect. Moreover, it's that little girl Qinxue? After the two separated, Feng Xiao's beautiful eyes looked at Zhuowen with a smile. Zhuowen scratched his head and said with a little embarrassment, Hey, Qinxue is the girl I like. That little girl Qinxue. When I was imprisoned in the Burning Flame Tower, I heard some things about her. Let her come over, and let me take a look. Feng Xiao said with a faint smile. Zhuowen's eyes flickered and he said with some hesitation, Mother, Qinxue has lost her memories of me. This must have been done by Zhou Tianzong. Now that she can't recognize me, I'm afraid she won't listen to me. After saying this, Zhuowen looked at the woman who was still standing around the ruins of the Burning Heaven Hall. She was like an independent flame lotus. Mu Qinxue had always been calm. Even when the Burning Heaven sect and Ryuka were fighting, she was still calm and collected. Even when many disciples of the Burning Heaven sect died at the hands of Zhuowen, she was still calm and collected. It was as if there was nothing in the world that could make her reveal any other expression. Lost her memories? Could it be that bastard Zhou Tianzong used a forbidden technique? I have to go take a look at that little girl Qinxue's situation. Feng Xiao seemed to have thought of something, and her beautiful face turned pale. She quickly had Long Xiaotian bring the dual-headed nether dragon over to Mu Qinxue. Seeing Feng Xiao's expression, Zhuowen's heart skipped a beat, and a bad premonition filled his heart. Mother, what forbidden technique is it? Is it very dangerous? Zhuowen quickly asked. Feng Xiao shook her head and said, I can't be certain right now. I have to go in front of that little girl to confirm whether or not she has been affected by the forbidden technique. Zhuowen fell silent. He stared at the beautiful figure in the distance. That beautiful figure was starting to panic in his heart. It was as if at this moment, that beautiful figure was very far away from him. Nothing will happen, Zhuowen said to himself with a smile. So, the dual-headed nether dragon descended. Feng Xiao was supported by Long Xiaotian, as she slowly walked in front of Mu Qinxue. Zhuowen followed closely behind. As for Yanji's group of three, they stood on the dual-headed nether dragon, and did not immediately come down. They were outsiders, so naturally it wasn't good for them to come down together. You guys! Mu Qinxue was a little vigilant, but seeing that Feng Xiao and Long Xiaotian did not have any ill intent in their eyes, the vigilance in her eyes gradually faded. However, she was still not used to the two of them being so close. Qinxue, they are my parents. They won't hurt you. Zhuowen slowly walked to Mu Qinshua's side and held her pure white jade hand. The vigilant Mu Qinshu also relaxed. She did not know why, but as long as the man in front of her was standing by her side, she could feel a strange calmness. It was as if as long as the man in front of her was here, he could support her in any way. Are you really the previous holy maiden of the Burning Heaven sect? Mu Qinshua's beautiful eyes fell onto Feng Xiao as she asked in a curious voice. Feng Xiao's beautiful eyes curved as she said with a smile, "That's right. I was indeed the Burning Heaven sect's holy maiden in the past, but I'm not anymore. Chen Shui, can you let me see your sea of consciousness? You can be assured. I swear on my life that I will not have any bad intentions towards you. If I do, I will be struck by lightning and die a horrible death," Feng Xiao said in a serious voice. Mu Qinshu knit her brows. The sea of consciousness was the most precious place for a cultivator. If it was not someone they trusted, how could they casually let others see it? However, since Feng Xiao had sworn on her life, she clearly did not have any bad intentions. Chen Shui, didn't you say that you had forgotten something important? Perhaps the problem lies in your sea of consciousness, or perhaps your memories have been taken away by someone. Don't you want to know what the reason is? Zhuowen said to Mu Qinshu. Mu Qinshu was silent for a bit before finally nodding and letting go of her defenses. Feng Xiao's jade finger tapped on Mu Qinshu's forehead. A light flickered on her finger and entered Mu Qinshu's forehead. After half an incense stick of time, Feng Xiao took back her jade finger. Her beautiful eyes slowly opened with a trace of coldness. Mu Qinshu's face was a bit pale, but she was still held in Zhuowen's embrace. "Mother, what happened to Chen Shui's sea of consciousness?" Seeing Feng Xiao's expression, Zhuowen had a bad premonition. "Mind-splitting memory," Feng Xiao said in a deep voice. "Mind-splitting memory? What is that?" Zhuowen asked in a puzzled voice. "It's a forbidden technique of the Burning Heaven sect. It uses a special method to strip a certain memory from the user's sea of consciousness and control it in one's own hands," Feng Xiao said. Controlling it in one's own hands. In other words, Chen Shui's memory was not sealed, but rather stripped out. Is that memory in Zhou Tianzong's hands? Zhuowen slowly turned his head and stared at Zhou Tianzong, who was still confronting the three mountain gods. His voice was very cold. "I'm afraid it's in Zhou Tianzong's hands. Moreover, mind-splitting memory is a forbidden technique. It doesn't only have the effect of stripping memories, because if that memory is deliberately broken, the user's sea of consciousness will become chaotic. Her memories will slowly disappear as time passes, and her soul will collapse before finally dying." Chapter 1571. 7 Laws. Once these words were said, Mu Qinshu was stunned. She knit her brows and said, "Is it that serious? Then who took away my memories?" This kind of taboo technique has always been in the hands of the Burning Heaven sect's sect masters. It was Zhou Tianzong who used this evil taboo technique on you. Feng Xiao's voice became very cold. Zhou Tianzong was too sinister, using this kind of taboo technique on the current saintess. He wanted to firmly control Mu Qinshu. "Zhou Tianzong, you old fool!" Zhuowen roared out as his eyes filled with killing intent. Zhou Tianzong was simply treating Mu Qinshu as a prisoner. So, Mu Qinshu suddenly jumped up, and the flames under her feet turned into a giant fire phoenix. She arrived not far away from Zhou Tianzong and stared at him with her beautiful eyes as she said, "Sect Master, did you use memory splitting on me?" Zhou Tianzong's eyes flickered as he said with a grin, "Chen Shui, you are the Burning Heaven sect's saintess. These people are the enemies of the Burning Heaven sect. Are you really willing to listen to their words? Let me tell you right now, they are all speaking nonsense. You are the Burning Heaven sect's saintess, so you should stand on this one's side. Come over here," Zhou Tianzong calmly said. "Old dog Zhou, the one speaking nonsense is you. Who would believe your nonsense? Chen Shui's memories were taken by you, and that Elder Qiu was also turned into an idiot by your Burning Heaven sect's Yin Ruhua. You can even do such a vicious thing to the people of your own sect. The conduct of your Burning Sky sect is truly ugly." Zhuowen arrived beside Mu Qinshu and spoke in a cold voice. When Mu Chenxue heard about Elder Qiu, her delicate body trembled, and she became agitated. Elder Qiu was turned into an idiot by Yan Ruhua? Why did he do this? And why didn't you stop him? Back then, Mu Chenxue had also asked Zhou Tianzong about Elder Qiu. But Zhou Tianzong had always used excuses to brush her off. There was even a period of time when he forbade her from meeting Elder Qiu. At that time, Mu Chenxue had already had her suspicions. Now that Zhuowen mentioned it, she was suddenly enlightened. Zhou Tianzong flew into a rage. Zhuowen spoke without any scruples, and his heart was filled with rage. However, with the 3 mountain gods standing in front of him, he couldn't directly attack Zhuowen. All you can do is hide behind others and bark like a dog. What else can you do? Zhou Tianzong said coldly. I can still defeat you. Since you said that I can only hide behind others and bark, then I'm standing right in front of you. Do you dare to fight me, Zhuowen? Zhuowen slowly walked over and landed in front of the 3 mountain gods. He stared coldly at Zhou Tianzong. This Zhou Tianzong actually dared to use such a forbidden technique on Mu Chenxue. Zhuowen's killing intent surged. He couldn't wait to kill him with his own hands. The 3 mountain gods, Long Xiaotian, and the other Ryuka silently watched all this. No one was worried about Zhuowen. Even if Zhou Tianzong was a saint of the Yang Sky Sacred Realm, they weren't worried. This was because Zhuowen had a heaven-defying saint artifact, the spirit-swallowing lava river. Even Zhou Tianzong might not be able to block Zhuowen's spirit-swallowing lava river. Zhou Tianzong narrowed his eyes and said indifferently, I know you have a heaven-defying saint artifact. That's why you're so fearless. To be fair, you can't use that heaven-defying saint artifact. As soon as he said this, the Ryuka frowned. Lu Hantian even shouted, Old man, you're already a fish on the chopping block. How dare you be so picky? Do you believe that we won't kill you directly? Let's see if you can still be so arrogant then. Zhou Tianzong was neither anxious nor annoyed. He stared at Zhuowen, his lips moving as he used secret voice sending to Zhuowen. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed as he stared at Zhou Tianzong and said in a low voice, You dare? Zhou Tianzong smiled faintly and said, Why wouldn't I dare? If I die, you can forget about getting that thing. You might even lose the most important thing. So you can fight with me, but you can't use that heaven-defying saint artifact. I can promise you, but I think that to be fair, we shouldn't use the saint artifact. Zhuowen said indifferently, Haha, that's reasonable. Of course, no matter who wins or loses, you have to let me go. Of course, if you win, I'll give that thing to you. If you break the promise, you know the consequences better than I do. Zhou Tianzong said indifferently. Zhuowen was silent for a moment. Finally, he said in a low voice, Okay, I promise you. Zhuowen, what are you talking about? How can you agree to this old man's ridiculous condition? Lu Hantian asked in confusion. Not only Lu Hantian, but Kanan Gatha, Moyan Wushang, Emo Lingtian, and the other Ryuka clansmen were also puzzled. Zhou Tianzong's condition could be described as excessive. As long as one had a brain, they wouldn't agree to it. But Zhuowen had agreed to it. Could there be some secret behind it? Feng Xiao seemed to have thought of something. Her beautiful eyes revealed a worried look. She sighed and said, This brat has done so much for that girl Chenxue. Long Xiaotian didn't say anything. He faintly thought of the content of Zhou Tianzong's voice transmission. He was afraid that he was using Mu Chenxue's memory as a bargaining chip. Brother Hu and Sister Jibai have nothing to do with our Burning Heaven sect. You can let them go first. Zhou Tianzong said to Zhuowen again. You're still pushing your luck? Lu Hantian said in a bad mood. Zhuowen took a deep breath and said, Let them go. Zhuowen, you're really going to let them go? Lu Hantian was puzzled. Brother Hantian, I know what I'm doing. Zhuowen looked at Lu Hantian and said. Lu Hantian nodded and didn't say anything else. With Zhuowen's permission, Yuan Jibai and Hu Hantian cupped their hands and left the Burning Heaven City without any hindrance. Boom. Zhuowen stepped into the void and stared at Zhou Tianzong. Get up here. Today, you and I will fight. I will make you prostrate on the ground. Zhou Tianzong's lips curled into a smile. He laughed and said, Zhuowen, I Zhou Tianzong actually admire you. You're able to develop the Ryuka to such a level. Of course, I think a large part of it is because of the Immortal Saint artifact. However, do you think you can defeat me without relying on the heaven-defying saint artifact? With your insignificant cultivation of the pure profound saint realm? You're right. I don't need to rely on external items to defeat you. Zhuowen replied indifferently. Arrogant. Zhou Tianzong leaped into the air. Every step he took left a trail of fire in the air, looking like fireworks. It was a dazzling sight. Finally, he landed in front of Zhuowen, facing him from afar. This isn't arrogance but confidence, Zhuowen said indifferently. Then let me see how much strength your confidence can bring you. If you really suffer a double loss later, don't blame me for not warning you. After Zhou Tianzong finished speaking, he stepped into the void and flames began to emerge from his body. Strangely, the flames on the surface of his body had 3 colors, black, purple and red. Boom! The 3-colored flames spread very quickly. In an instant, with Zhou Tianzong as the center, they covered an area of nearly 1,000 feet. The law of fire, but it seems to be a little different from the law of fire. Looking at the 3-colored flames, Zhuowen could feel the rich power of the law of fire. However, these flames were different from the ordinary law of fire. Or rather, they were much stronger than the ordinary law of fire. Zhuowen is too impulsive. His cultivation is a little weaker than Zhou Tianzong's. If he doesn't rely on the heaven-defying saint artifact, I'm afraid it's impossible for him to defeat Zhou Tianzong. Lu Hantian muttered to himself with an ugly expression. Mu Qinxue, who was standing on the other side, frowned slightly and revealed a worried look. Don't worry, Zhuowen is not as weak as you think, Lo said with a laugh. Others might not know, but Lo's knew that Zhuowen now had a great success sacred body. In addition, with the 9-cycle golden split pattern, the power of the sacred body was no weaker than his. If the law power in Zhuowen's body was added, Zhuowen's combat strength would probably double. These are the law of fire of 3 different attributes. The law of fire of each attribute is completely comparable to the power of the other laws. 3 of them are equivalent to mastering 3 laws. Zhou Tianzong's eyes revealed an arrogant look. He looked at Zhuowen with a murderous look in his eyes. He knew very well that with that thing on his body, Zhuowen would not dare to act rashly, let alone kill him. He could only act cautiously. Therefore, at this moment he was somewhat unscrupulous, and even a little crazy. The Burning Heaven sect had collapsed, and the Burning Heaven Hall had been destroyed. Most of the elites of the Burning Heaven sect and the 18 Black Flame envoys had fallen. Zhou Tianzong knew that half of the foundation of the Burning Heaven sect had been destroyed. All of this was caused by the young man in front of him. Therefore, Zhou Tianzong must kill the young man in front of him with his own hands to relieve the hatred in his heart. Die! Zhou Tianzong took a step forward. The 3-colored flame was like a long river, majestically rushing toward Zhuowen. It wanted to wrap Zhuowen's entire body in it. Ice and fire. Zhuowen immediately opened his ice and fire eyes. Suddenly, the 2 energies of ice and fire soared into the sky and condensed into a huge palace in front of him. Boom! The 3-colored flame rushed over and smashed into the ice and fire palace, causing it to retreat. Just 2 types of laws can't stop me. Zhou Tianzong laughed wildly. If 2 types of laws can't do it, what about 3 or 4? Zhuowen was not in a hurry. He dragged the ice and fire palace with his right hand and clenched his left hand into a fist. Ice, fire, death, desolation, and void laws condensed on his fist. With a punch, the 5 types of laws were like 5 long dragons, bombarding the 3-colored flame. Rumble! Suddenly, the 3-colored flame with irresistible force froze in the void. Zhou Tianzong groaned and took a few steps back. With a face full of astonishment he said, 5 types of laws? You alone have mastered 5 types of laws. 5 types? I'm afraid it's more than that. Masha Karma. Zhuowen sneered and immediately summoned the Masha and Karma laws. Behind Zhuowen, 2 huge figures of Buddha and demon appeared and punched out again. Boom! The power of the 7 types of laws was too terrifying. The 3-colored flame was annihilated, and Zhou Tianzong spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. Chapter 1572. The Icefire clan's representative 7 laws? One person has mastered 7 laws. Isn't that too terrifying? I have never heard of anyone in the southern barbarian lands who has mastered so many laws. Everyone was in an uproar as they stared at the figure that had repelled Zhou Tianzong with a single punch. They were all in disbelief. What a monster! Whoosh! Zhuowen stepped into the air and arrived in front of Zhou Tianzong like an arrow. He reached out with his right hand and grabbed at Zhou Tianzong's clothes, trying to pull him back. Get lost! Zhou Tianzong roared. He waved his right hand and took out a long blade covered in purple flames. Purple flame heavenly blade slash. With a slash of the blade, purple flames soared into the sky, forming numerous purple flame storms that tore through space. The surrounding temperature also rapidly rose at a frightening speed, roasting the surrounding people until their faces flushed red and their ears turned red. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. He did not expect Zhou Tianzong to suddenly use a saint weapon. It was not the first time Zhuowen had seen the purple flame heavenly blade. Back in the eastern lands, Zhou Tianzong had used it once. The quality of the purple flame heavenly blade was even higher than the dark flame brush. It was probably a sky saint weapon. Facing the terrifying attack of the purple flame heavenly blade, Zhuowen was caught off guard. However, his reaction was astonishing. 2 golden runes surged out of his body and formed 2 layers of defense in front of him. Boom! The purple flames rushed over and blasted on the golden runes. Then Zhuowen took a few steps back. He waved his right hand, and the spirit-devouring magma river at his waist turned into a long river. It swept out and devoured the terrifying purple flames. Whoosh! The spirit-devouring magma river was unforgiving. After devouring the purple flames, it continued to rush towards Zhou Tianzong. Zhou Tianzong cursed inwardly. He waved the purple flame heavenly blade. Blade shadows accompanied by purple flames covered the surrounding space densely. However, the spirit-devouring magma river was too terrifying. It was a heaven-defying saint weapon. The purple flame heavenly blade's blade shadows were directly annihilated. Puchi! Zhou Tianzong spat out a mouthful of blood and hurriedly fled. However, the spirit-devouring magma river was much faster than him. It turned into a thin rope and tied Zhou Tianzong. Then, Zhou Tianzong was brought him to Zhuowen. What other tricks do you want to play? As the sect master of the Burning Heaven sect, don't you feel ashamed for using such petty tricks? Zhuowen said coldly. Hehe. What? Could it be that you want to kill me? I'm the only one who knows where that thing is. If you kill me, you'll never find that thing, Zhou Tianzong said fearlessly. However, just as Zhou Tianzong finished speaking, Zhuowen stepped forward and stomped on his chest. Zhou Tianzong immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Then he fell from the sky and landed heavily on the ground, forming a huge crater. Cough cough cough. You. Inside the crater, Zhou Tianzong kept coughing. He raised his head and glared at Zhuowen. He hadn't expected Zhuowen to attack. Sect Master Zhou, don't think that you can be so fearless just because you have that thing. If possible, I can use the soul-searching secret technique on you and search your memories. At that time, even if you don't tell me, I'll know. Zhuowen slowly landed in front of the crater and continued. So you better not think too highly of yourself. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that I won't use such extreme methods on you. Zhou Tianzong's expression changed. His eyes flickered and he remained silent. Hand over Chen Shui's memories and I won't make it hard for you, Zhuowen said as he spread out his hands. Zhou Tianzong was silent for a moment. He flicked his right hand and took out a brocade box from his spirit ring. He handed it over to Zhuowen and said, That memory is in this brocade box. You can take it, but you have to keep your promise. Zhuowen took the brocade box and said, If you didn't lie to me, I will keep my promise. Slowly opening the brocade box, Zhuowen found that there was a thumb-sized transparent bead inside. This bead was covered in 7 different colors and looked very beautiful. Zhuowen, be careful. That's not a memory bead. Quickly throw it away. Suddenly, Feng Xiao's expression changed, and she shouted at Zhuowen's back. When Zhuowen opened the brocade box, Feng Xiao had been paying attention to him. When she saw the rainbow bead, she immediately found that something was wrong. Zhuowen's pupil shrank. He threw out his right hand and planned to throw away the rainbow bead. What a strong suction force! However, the moment he threw away the rainbow bead, Zhuowen was shocked to find that there was a terrifying suction force coming from the bead, and it was firmly sucked into his palm. Haha, Zhuowen, you've been fooled. Mu Qinxue can indeed lower your IQ and vigilance. You're so easy to fool. Zhou Tianzong laughed. A jade talisman appeared in his hand at an unknown time. He crushed the jade talisman, and he broke free from the shackles of the spirit-swallowing lava river, and disappeared in front of Zhuowen. Boom! The moment Zhou Tianzong disappeared, the rainbow bead began to explode. Rainbow energy swept through the entire space. The explosive energy rushed into the sky and penetrated deep into the earth. The earth shook and the mountains shook. The sky was flooded with the rainbow energy. It was so dense that it made one's scalp tingle. Zhuowen, Lord Longwen. Everyone in the Long family had a drastic change in expression. No one expected Zhou Tianzong to be this despicable and shameless. He actually used Mu Qinshue's matter to plot against Zhuowen. Zhou Tianzong, you're despicable. Feng Xiao and Long Xiaotian's eyes were red. Long Xiaotian urged the two-headed nether dragon to charge at Zhou Tianzong, who was thousands of miles away. Haha, this kid deserves to die. He destroyed the foundation of my Burning Heaven sect. Does he not deserve to die? And you, Feng Xiao, as the previous saintess of the Burning Heaven sect, you committed adultery with an outsider and gave birth to such a bastard. You are truly a sinner of the Burning Heaven sect, Zhou Tianzong said with a sinister expression. You're the one who forced our family of 3. If it weren't for you, this wouldn't have happened to the Burning Heaven sect. If we're talking about sinners, then you're the one who deserves to be sinned, Feng Xiao said coldly. Roar! The two-headed nether dragon arrived in an instant. Its dragon tail swept across the sky like a huge whip and lashed out in front of Zhou Tianzong. Boom! Zhou Tianzong stood in place. When the dragon tail arrived in front of him, a fierce attack came from the void behind him and smashed into the dragon tail. Thump! 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 The two-headed nether dragon was forced to retreat several steps under this attack. Its eyes were filled with bewilderment. What's that? Long Xiaotian and Feng Xiao stared at the void behind Zhou Tianzong in bewilderment. There, the void slowly cracked open. Figures with powerful auras stepped out and landed around Zhou Tianzong. 15 figures walked out of the void crack. These people were all dressed in alternating blue and red robes. The blue was like ice and the red was like fire. It seems that our coordinates are correct. This should be the location of the Southern Burning Heaven sect. But how did it become so chaotic? A tall middle-aged man with a solemn expression looked around. He found that the Burning Heaven city was extremely chaotic at this moment. Even the iconic building, the Burning Flame Tower, had collapsed. It seemed that a great battle had taken place. You should be Lord Xinghua, right? I've heard about you from Elder Ren. Zhou Tianzong respectfully came before the middle-aged man and spoke in a rather submissive tone. Oh, it seems that you should be the sect master of the Burning Heaven sect, Zhou Tianzong. Didn't your Burning Heaven sect have a girl with the Phoenix bloodline and a kid with the Black Tortoise bloodline from the Snow Palace? We're not here to see you today. We're here to see if the bloodline of these 2 little guys is strong. The middle-aged man named Xinghua said lightly. This, Lord Xinghua, the Black Tortoise bloodline's Xiuzhe is dead, and the Phoenix bloodline's Mu Qinxue has been snatched away. I'm afraid it'll be a little difficult for you to meet them, Zhou Tianzong said in a low voice. What did you say? Who dares to snatch the people I want? Xinghua narrowed his eyes and emitted a cold light. It's like this, Zhou Tianzong pointed at Feng Xiao and Long Xiaotian, as well as the mini Ryuka forces behind them. He silently told Xinghua what had happened. Your Burning Heaven sect is really useless. You were actually defeated by the rising Ryuka of the Eastern Lands. However, this Ryuka's luck is not bad. He actually has a saint artifact. After listening to Zhou Tianzong's narration, Xinghua said rather impolitely. Zhou Tianzong did not dare to casually refute. This person's background was not small, and he did not dare to casually offend him. Who are you guys? Long Xiaotian asked with fear in his eyes. Feng Xiao's jade-like hand blocked Long Xiaotian and transmitted. Xiaotian, quickly retreat. These people are probably from the Ice-Fire family of the Central Lands. We can't afford to offend them. Quickly retreat, or it'll be too late. Hearing this, Long Xiaotian's heart trembled. Although he did not know much about the Central Lands, he still knew some of the famous forces. The Ice-Fire family was one of the famous forces. This was a super force that was much stronger than the overlord forces of the 4 major regions. They were in existence that they could not afford to offend. Thinking of this, Long Xiaotian's thoughts moved, and the 2-headed nether dragon suddenly turned its head and distanced itself from Xinghua and the others. "Want to leave? Not so fast." Xinghua sneered and pressed his right hand against the void. Instantly, a surge of ice and fire energy was formed by his hand and turned into a giant hand of ice and fire. It pressed down on the 2-headed nether dragon. Roar! The 2-headed nether dragon roared and swung its huge dragon tail. It passed through space and blasted towards the giant hand. Boom! When the two collided, the dragon tail collapsed, and the giant hand of ice and fire was unstoppable. It enveloped Long Xiaotian and Feng Xiao. "Break for me." However, just as the giant hand of ice and fire was about to suppress Long Xiaotian and Feng Xiao, the 3 mountain gods brought their 3 sacred mountains and blocked the giant hand of ice and fire. However, Lowe's and the other 2 were greatly shocked. Although the 3 of them joined forces to block the giant hand of ice and fire, they were barely able to do so. The giant hand slammed down again and again, causing the 3 sacred mountains to tremble, as if they would collapse at any time. Chapter 1573. Sschichia what? They're all Sky Saint Realm saints? Feng Xiao and Long Xiaotian weren't the only ones who were shocked. The surrounding Ryuka and Burning Sky City's cultivators were also shocked. The Sky Saint Realm, a saint with such cultivation, had never appeared in the 4 major regions. Even the sect leader of the Burning Sky sect, Zhou Tianzong, the sect leader of the Ferocious Tiger sect, Hu Benshan, and the palace master of the Snow Palace, Yuan Jibai, were only at the peak of the Sun Sky Saint Realm. But now 15 mysterious cultivators had appeared, and all of them were in the Sky Saint Realm. This was unbelievable. Who are these people? They're all in the Sky Saint Realm. This is too terrifying. It's impossible for such experts to appear in the 4 major regions, and so many of them at once. Without a doubt, these people are from the Central Plains. I wonder which faction they are from. Looking at these 15 people, it seems like they're related to the Burning Heaven sect. It seems like the Ryuka that defeated the Burning Heaven sect is doomed. Burning Sky City was in an uproar. 15 Sky Saint Realm saints had appeared at once. This was a huge visual impact to the cultivators in Burning Sky City, who had never stepped into the Central Plains. "Let's go. Everyone, quickly return to the Azure Dragon Hall." Long Xiaotian also knew the urgency of the situation, and hurriedly shouted at the Ryuka people. Nearly 100 members of the Long family did not hesitate in the slightest. They all followed Long Xiaotian's instructions and entered the Azure Dragon Hall. "Uncle, what about Zhuowen? We still don't know if he's dead or alive." Lu Hantian asked anxiously as he led Kanan, Gatha, Imo Lingtian, and Moyan Wushang to the 2-headed nether dragon where Long Xiaotian and Feng Xiao were. "You don't have to worry about Zhuowen. That kid won't die so easily. You can enter the Azure Dragon Hall first." The Abyss Saint Dragon had somehow landed near the 2-headed nether dragon and stared at everyone with his large dragon eyes. No one was surprised when the Abyssal Holy Dragon spoke. They already knew that Zhuowen's dragon soul was not ordinary. Now that they heard Xiao He say that Zhuowen was fine, they were relieved. After all, Xiao He was Zhuowen's dragon soul. Naturally, she could sense whether Zhuowen was dead or alive. "Take them down. Which one of you is going?" Xinghua's eyes were cold as he said to the 14 figures behind him who were dressed in red and blue robes. "Let me do it. I alone am enough." A skinny man with a gloomy expression slowly walked out and said with a strange laugh, "Chichio, right? Remember to be gentle. Just capture them alive. There's no need to kill them," Xinghua said calmly. Chichio chuckled and said, "What Big Brother Xinghua said is right. I know what I'm doing." As he spoke, the man called Chi Chio waved his sleeve and vanished on the spot, as if he had teleported. I'll stop him. Mai's eyes were gloomy as he stomped the 16th mountain with his right foot. The 16th mountain turned into a stone spear that was about 10 feet long. He held the stone spear and stepped on the void with his right foot. A terrifying blast of air burst out as he shot out like a cannonball. However, Mai's did not get far before he was crushed by a giant hand of ice and fire. He was blasted back. The three of you can forget about going anywhere. But what I'm surprised about is that the three of you don't have any saint power fluctuations on your bodies. Moreover, the strength of your physical bodies is a little too strong. Who are you? Xinghua looked at Lowe's and the other two and said unhurriedly. Lowe's and the other two narrowed their eyes. The feeling that Xinghua gave them was much stronger than the other 14 people. Without a doubt, Xinghua had reached the peak of the Sky Saint realm and was not far from the heaven-defying saint realm. Although the three of them had saint physiques, they were at the bottom of the 18 mountain gods. There was still a certain gap between their strength and the Sky Saint realm. In particular, Xinghua was at the peak of the Sky Saint realm. To them, even if the three of them joined forces, they might not be able to defeat Xinghua, not to mention the other 13 people behind Xinghua, who were eyeing them covetously. While Xinghua was confronting Lowe's and the other two, Chichio had already caught up with Feng Xiao, Long Xiaotian, and the others. The two-headed nether dragon, and I will block this person. The 7 of you should hurry up and leave. Otherwise, if you get caught, Zhuowen will have to hold back, Xiao He said to Long Xiaotian and the others. Then, she rushed out with the two-headed nether dragon to meet Chichio head-on. You want to block me with just 2 dragon souls? Ridiculous. Chichio licked his lips and flipped his right palm. Countless wind blades appeared around him. With a pinch of his right hand, the wind blades gathered together and formed an invisible crescent-shaped blade. Dimensional/die. Whoosh. The crescent-shaped blade was extremely swift, and it whistled through the air like a gale. Everywhere it passed, space shattered into pieces like glass, and it was an extremely magnificent sight. Pucci, the two-headed nether dragon, was directly cut in half. Under the crescent-shaped blade, the two-headed nether dragon, who was not weak, could not resist at all. What? How terrifying! This person only mastered the ordinary law of wind. Why is the wind blade so terrifying? Long Xiaotian could not help but turn pale with fright. There was a metallic taste in his throat as he spat out a mouthful of blood. The two-headed nether dragon was his dragon soul. Now that it was destroyed, it naturally had some impact on him. The next time Long Xiaotian wanted to use the two-headed nether dragon, he would have to wait for his dragon soul to completely recover before he could use it again. This person is at the Empyrean Saint stage. Even if he only mastered the ordinary law of wind, his power is far stronger than an ordinary saint. Moreover, this person also mastered some kind of secret technique that can use the law of wind. That's why his wind blade is so powerful, Feng Xiao explained calmly. Feng Xiao calmly explained, after all, she was the previous holy maiden of the Burning Heaven sect. She knew a lot about the Burning Heaven sect. She knew that the Burning Heaven sect and the Icefire clan of the Central Plains had some connections. However, due to the long distance between the two, and the Burning Heaven sect was only an insignificant branch of the Icefire clan, the two had no contact at all. Of course, for many years, the Burning Heaven sect had tried to establish a relationship with the Icefire clan. However, it did not attract the attention of the higher-ups of the Icefire clan. Or rather, even if they did not pay much attention to it. But now, because the rare Phoenix bloodline had appeared in the Burning Heaven sect, and the Black Tortoise bloodline had appeared in the Icefire clan, these two bloodlines were very important to the Icefire clan. Even in the Icefire clan, there were not many disciples with these two bloodlines. But generally, disciples with these bloodlines would be nurtured by the Icefire clan with great effort. They would usually become monstrous geniuses in the Central Plains. Therefore, the Burning Heaven sect and the Icefire clan reported this news to the Icefire clan, which immediately attracted the attention of the higher-ups of the Icefire clan. Taking advantage of the marriage between the two great forces, The Icefire clan would also send people to bring back Mu Qinxue and Bathing Lake, who both had special bloodlines, to the clan to nurture. Boom! After the crescent-shaped blade instantly beheaded the two-headed nether dragon, it did not lose momentum and swept towards Xiaohei. Don't be so arrogant with a mere dimensional slash. Xiaohei shouted in a low voice. He opened his dragon mouth and spat out a dense black mist. This black mist formed a pile of cotton-like things that blocked in front of him. Bang! The crescent-shaped blade arrived in an instant and slammed into the black mist. Then, the blade bounced back and flew towards Qiqiu. Qiqiu was stunned. He waved his sleeve, and the crescent-shaped blade that bounced back was completely destroyed. He stared at Xiaohei in surprise and said, "What an interesting dragon soul. It actually blocked my dimensional slash. I wonder who your master is." "It's me." An indifferent voice slowly rang out. The rainbow-colored explosion in the distance began to weaken. From within the explosion, a slender figure slowly walked out. Zhuowen stood quietly. His gaze fell on Qiqiu, Xinghua, and the other members of the Icefire clan who were not far away. He frowned slightly. He could feel that the aura on these people was not simple. He didn't die. This kid is really lucky, Zhou Tianzong muttered to himself with slight pity. At this moment Zhuowen was in a sorry state. His clothes were tattered due to the violent explosion. His great success holy physique was even damaged in many places. At the same time, a third golden rune appeared on Zhuowen's body. This third golden rune was engraved on Zhuowen's soul when he was engulfed in the explosion. It was precisely because Zhuowen had carved the third golden rune, at the moment of life and death, that the power of his great success saint body had reached a new height. This was why Zhuowen had relied on his saint body to completely withstand the explosion around him. Otherwise, Zhuowen wouldn't have just suffered light injuries. It was very likely that he would have suffered heavy injuries. Zhou Tianzong turned his head and saw Zhuowen behind the dozen people. He gritted his teeth and whispered, "Zhou Tianzong, you old fox. Zhuowen will definitely make you pay the price. Are you all right?" With a burst of fragrance, Mu Qinxue floated to Zhuowen's side. Her watery eyes were filled with worry as she stared at Zhuowen. After all, the injuries on Zhuowen's body looked quite serious. Seeing the worry in Mu Qinshue's eyes, Zhuowen's heart warmed. Although Mu Qinxue might have forgotten about him, her feelings for him had not changed. She would still be worried about him. "Qinxue, I'm fine. I'll send you to the Azure Dragon Palace first. Don't worry, I'll help you take back the memories that belong to you. I promise," Zhuowen said with a smile. Mu Qinxue revealed a smile. She opened her jade-like arms and suddenly hugged Zhuowen. She softly whispered in Zhuowen's ear, I know that you are the most important person that I have forgotten. You are called Zhuowen. At least I won't forget your name in the future. However, they are from the Ice and Fire family. They came to take me away. They are too strong. You don't have to risk your life. Zhuowen, I can call you Zhuowen again. I will remember that the most important person is called Zhuowen. Boom. Chapter 1574. Tiles. A giant phoenix phantom appeared behind Mu Qinxue. It spread its wings and soared into the 9 heavens. Whoosh! The phoenix wings on Mu Qinshue's back spread open. Like a ball of dazzling flames, she suddenly soared into the sky and flew towards Zhou Tianzong. "Qinshue, come back." Zhuowen already knew what Mu Qinxue wanted to do. His expression changed. He stepped off with his right foot and stepped into the void, chasing after Mu Qinxue, as if he had teleported. However, Mu Qinshue's phoenix wings were too fast. Like a meteor, she passed by in the blink of an eye. Zhuowen's speed using the void laws was only comparable to hers. Catch her! Zhuowen's eyes were scarlet red. A pair of 10 feet long purple thunder wings spread out from his back. It was the purple thunder wings transformed from the thunder 3 wings of the 6 wings of wind and thunder. The moment the purple thunder wings spread, Zhuowen attached the void laws to the surface of the thunder wings. Instantly, Zhuowen's speed soared to another level. He immediately caught up to Mu Qinxue and grabbed her hand. "Zhuowen, how are you so fast?" Mu Qinxue was stunned. Her beautiful eyes revealed a look of surprise. However, She quickly thought of something and hurriedly said, "Why aren't you leaving? These people from the Ice and Fire family are too strong. You have no chance of winning. They're looking for me. There's no need for you to get involved. Didn't I say it before? If I want to take you away, you have to come with me." Zhuowen was extremely domineering. He exerted force with his right hand and pulled Mu Qinxue into his embrace, tightly hugging her. Mu Qinshue's body trembled, but she did not resist. "This is the little girl with the phoenix bloodline from your Burning Heaven sect, right? The phoenix bloodline in her body is very dense." Looking at the gigantic phoenix phantom behind Mu Qinxue, Xinghua revealed a look of excitement. The density of the phoenix bloodline in Mu Qinshue's body had exceeded his expectations. "Lord Xinghua, that brat is Zhuowen. The black tortoise bloodline's bathing lake was killed by him, and now he wants to take away Mu Qinsue. He is simply not putting the Ice and Fire family in his eyes. Not to mention that immortal sacred artifact hall was also obtained by luck," Zhou Tianzong hastily said. "Is this the Zhuowen you mentioned? Pure profound saint realm? A brat with such a cultivation base actually managed to make your Burning Heaven sect so miserable?" Xinghua casually glanced at Zhuowen and then asked in a somewhat strange tone. Zhou Tianzong's old face reddened, and he said, "Lord Xinghua, don't underestimate this brat. He has a heaven-defying saint artifact in his hand, and his physical strength is the same as those three, comparable to an ordinary Sky Sun Saint Realm expert. If my guess is correct, whether it is the heaven-defying saint artifact in his hand or his tough physical body, they are all related to that hall." Xinghua nodded and said, "I naturally know this. Take them all down, but of course, you have to be careful not to hurt that little girl with the phoenix bloodline. Young master will be here soon, and before he arrives, we'd better take care of everything." As soon as Xinghua said this, the 13 men behind him all nodded and immediately rushed out, the Sky Sun Saint Realm Saint pressure crushing down like a vast mountain. "Let's go." Zhuowen pulled Mu Qinxue, and the law of the void enveloped the two of them, and with a flap of his lightning wings, he directly entered the void. "This brat has grasped the law of the void and used the forbidden sky domain." Xinghua waved his sleeve, took out a scroll and unfolded it. Suddenly, the void within 1,000 miles fell into a confinement, as if the void within this range was frozen. Whoosh! 100 miles away, Zhuowen suddenly came out of the void, and his face was somewhat gloomy. This was because he had been squeezed out of the void, and the surrounding void had been confined, so his law of the void had no effect. Xinghua smiled coldly and said, "The power of law of the profound saint level is weak. A single forbidden sky scroll is enough to force you out." The power of law naturally became stronger as the strength of the saint increased. Although Zhuowen had a saint body at the great success level, and his strength was comparable to a Sky Sun Saint Realm expert, his law of the void was still at the pure profound saint realm. If Zhuowen was at the Sky Saint Realm, this forbidden sky scroll really wouldn't cause any hindrance to Zhuowen's law of the void. However, the power of a profound saint level's law of the void was still too weak. Whoosh! 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 The moment Zhuowen was forced out of the void, the 13 Sky Saint Realm saints moved like lightning, and instantly surrounded Zhuowen and Mu Qinxue. "A mere pure profound saint realm brat wants to snatch someone that our Ice Fire family wants? He's simply courting death. I'm really speechless. Why did Big Brother Xinghua make the 13 of us attack together? Isn't this a waste of talent? I heard that this brat's battle strength isn't ordinary, but I also think that using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken is a waste." The 13 people looked down at Zhuowen, who was surrounded from above. The contempt in their eyes was not concealed at all. The 13 of them were all Sky Saint Realm saints. Even if they were chasing someone in the same Sky Saint Realm, the 13 of them might not necessarily need to act together. Now that they had to act together to capture a pure profound saint realm brat, the 13 of them were naturally dissatisfied. The expressions of Lowe's and the other two changed slightly, and they all used their movement techniques to rescue Zhuowen. "The three of you stay here for me," Xinghua sneered coldly. He clenched his hands, and a pair of blades appeared in his hands. One of the blades was fiery red, and the other was icy blue. The two types of energy intertwined, and an extremely powerful saint aura erupted. This pair of blades was a sky saint artifact called the Scorching Ice Blades. It was a saint artifact bestowed to Xinghua by the Ice Fire family, and at the same time, it was Xinghua's life saint artifact. Ding! Ding! Xing Hui's speed was very fast. His two blades slashed out in a crisscross pattern. Two blade lights formed by ice and fire shot out in a crisscross pattern, blocking Liao Si and the other two who were rushing to help Zhuwen. In an instant, Xinghua and Lo's, and the other two engaged in a fierce battle. What surprised Lo's, and the other two was that Xinghua's strength was so terrifying that he could suppress the three of them by himself. On the other hand, on Zhuwen's side, the 13 Sky Saint Realm Saints were discussing who should capture Zhuwen first. Everyone, there's no need for you to discuss. Just attack together, because you're all going to die anyway. While the 13 Sky Saint Realm Saints were discussing, Zhuwen's indifferent voice slowly rang out. At this moment, the discussion came to an abrupt end. The 13 Sky Saint Realm Saints all looked at Zhuwen strangely. Was this guy's brain fried? He actually dared to say such bold words in front of the 13 of them. What an arrogant brat. This daddy can't tolerate it. I'll let this brat taste a fate worse than death. A brawny man who seemed to have a bad temper said in a hoarse voice. He suddenly fell from the sky, and his sturdy body was like a vigorous cheetah. He instantly changed direction in midair and rushed towards Zhuwen. He grabbed out with his hand. His hand was intertwined with ice and fire. From time to time, there would be strange crackling sounds from the surface. It was the unique sound of ice and fire mixing together. Pound is still so impatient. However, it's indeed more suitable for him to deal with this arrogant brat. I'm afraid this brat is finished. He'll only be tortured to death if he falls into Pound's hands. Seeing the brawny man rush out, the other 12 people were not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, they looked at Zhuwen as if they were watching a play. They were all Sky Saint Realm Saints, and they had their own pride. If the other party wasn't strong, they would rarely join forces to attack. CICICI. The moment Pound's big hand approached Zhuwen, the fiery red belt on Zhuwen's waist burst out with extremely dazzling light. The fiery red color was exceptionally dazzling. An endless magma gushed out of it, instantly blocking in front of Zhuwen. The big hand swept over, but it was blocked by the magma and couldn't enter at all. What is this thing? Pound was stunned and didn't react for a moment. However, the spirit-devouring magma river roared and suddenly surged with magma waves that drowned Pound. That's a heaven-defying saint artifact? This guy really does have a heaven-defying saint artifact. Let's help Pound tear the magma river apart. The other 12 Sky Saint Realm Saints naturally noticed the magma river, and their eyes were filled with caution. They joined forces, took out their saint artifacts, and rushed toward the magma river. I said that all of you will die. Looking at the 12 Sky Saint Realm Saints approaching at the same time, the sneer on Zhuwen's face deepened. He waved his right hand and took out an inconspicuous tile. There's really something wrong with this brat's head. He took out an inconspicuous tile and dares to threaten to kill us. I want to ask you, how are you going to kill us? Looking at the tile in Zhuwen's hand, the 12 Sky Saint Realm Saints mocked him mercilessly. That's how I'm going to kill you. Zhuwen was not annoyed. He channeled his saint energy into the tile. Suddenly, the tile shone with saint light, and a golden light burst out like the sun. The golden light soared into the sky and condensed into a majestic golden figure. This inconspicuous tile was the heaven-defying saint artifact that Yang Yi had given him back then. The power of a heaven-defying saint artifact might be slightly inferior to a heaven-defying saint artifact, but it also depended on the cultivation base of the wielder. If the wielder's cultivation base was in the Sky Saint Realm, or the heaven-defying saint realm, they could unleash the full power of a heaven-defying saint artifact and suppress a heaven-defying saint artifact in one fell swoop. However, if the wielder was a cultivator who hadn't entered the Sky Saint realm like Zhuwen, the power of a heaven-defying saint artifact would be far greater in his hands. This was because he could unleash the full power of a heaven-defying saint artifact, but he could only unleash a small portion of the power of a heaven-defying saint artifact. Therefore, the effect of the heaven-defying saint artifact in his hands was far greater than that of the spirit-devouring magma river. The majestic figure slowly extended his right hand and fell like a mountain. He was as fast as lightning and finally landed on the nearest Sky Saint Realm Saint. Pucci. Chapter 1575. SS Overwhelming. The moment the Sky Saint was killed, the other 11 saints stopped in their tracks and fell into a daze. This is a heaven-defying saint treasure. Heavens, this brat actually has a heaven-defying saint treasure. Run! Finally, one of the saints reacted. His body trembled, and he immediately turned tail and fled. This was a heaven-defying saint treasure. It contained the full power of a heaven-defying saint realm saint. Although the difference between the heaven-defying saint realm and the Sky Saint realm was only a small level, there was still a huge gap between their strength. If you weren't a heaven-defying genius, it was very difficult for a mere Sky Saint realm saint to resist the full power of a heaven-defying saint realm saint. That was why the saint who reacted first decisively fled. Whoosh! Unfortunately, the imposing figure was even faster than the saint. His other hand, shining with golden light, reached into the void and appeared in front of the saint, as if he had teleported. The giant hand was too terrifying. It was like an unreachable mountain, and it came crashing down with a rumble. Block it for me. The saint held the sacred artifact in his hand and raised it up high. The saint energy in his body poured into the sacred artifact without any regard for his life. Suddenly, saint light shot up into the sky like a tsunami, protecting the saint. Bang! The giant hand landed on the saint weapon, and the golden light on the surface of the saint weapon quickly dimmed. The saint spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura was weak, and his face was pale. However, before the saint could recover, the giant hand reached out again and smashed heavily in front of him. The saint weapon in the saint's hand was only a young Sky Saint weapon, and it couldn't withstand a second attack from the giant hand. Crack! Therefore, when the second giant hand landed, the saint couldn't withstand it anymore. His body collapsed, and he exploded into a mist of blood. He couldn't be more dead. Retreat, retreat, retreat! The remaining 10 Sky Saint Realm Saints shouted as they quickly retreated in 10 different directions. Seeing 2 of their companions being killed instantly, they were filled with anger and fear. However, the moment the majestic figure killed the second saint, his hand once again traversed the void and swept towards a saint who was fleeing in a certain direction. He grabbed the saint in his hand and exerted force, killing the third saint. As for the remaining 9 sages, they fled quickly and hid far away. Therefore, they managed to escape with their lives. At this moment, the entire burning Sky City had become incomparably quiet. Numerous gazes that had gathered over were all stunned. Everyone had their mouths wide open and were unable to speak. A Sky Saint died just like that, and 3 of them died in an instant. Many cultivators secretly swallowed their saliva and spat out these words with difficulty. This was a Sky Sage Realm martial artist, a powerful martial artist who was even stronger than their burning heaven sect master, Zhou Tianzong. Now he had died in front of them. Moreover, 3 of them had died in an instant, which greatly impacted the vision of many people. Crash! The spirit-devouring magma river was suddenly split open, and the saint named Pound shouted angrily, "Bastard! How much power can a mere pure profound saint realm exert from a heaven-defying saint artifact? You might as well have left me alive." As he spoke, Pound suddenly rushed towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen sneered repeatedly as he pressed down with his right hand. That imposing figure raised his hand and suddenly pressed down. Immediately, Pound didn't even have the chance to make a sound before he completely collapsed into a bloody mist. Xinghua, who was fighting fiercely with Lowe's and the other 2, also noticed the battle on Zhuowen's side. His body trembled as Lowe's, and the other 2 took advantage of a gap and repelled Xinghua. A heaven-defying saint artifact? This brat actually has a heaven-defying saint artifact? Zhou Tianzong, why didn't you say it clearly before? Xinghua snorted and stabilized his body, looking at Zhou Tianzong with an ugly expression. Zhou Tianzong was even more surprised. Seeing Xinghua looking at him, he hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Lord Xinghua, I don't know. I only know that this brat has a heaven-defying saint artifact and an immortal saint artifact palace. I didn't know he had a heaven-defying saint artifact." Speaking up to here, Zhou Tianzong cried bitterly in his heart. He had really underestimated Zhuowen. This brat actually had a heaven-defying saint artifact. This thing was like a heaven-defying saint artifact in person, and it had the power of a heaven-defying saint artifact. It was extremely terrifying. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 9 saints fled and hurriedly returned to Xinghua's side, looking frightened. Zhuowen put away the tile, and the majestic figure also disappeared. His gaze fell on the battle between Qiqiu and the Abyss Saint Dragon, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. At this moment, Qiqiu and the Abyss Saint Dragon were still fighting, but Qiqiu was worthy of being a Sky Saint stage powerhouse. He was firmly suppressing the Abyss Saint Dragon. Although the Abyss Saint Dragon was weaker than Qiqiu, its skin was thick, and it wasn't too passive. However, from the many curled dragon scales on its body, it could be seen that the Abyss Saint Dragon wasn't having a good time. "Qiqiu, come back quickly. Zhuowen is coming in your direction." Xinghua's gaze fell on Zhuowen in the distance. When he saw Zhuowen rushing in the direction of the battle between Qiqiu and the Abyss Saint Dragon, his expression changed greatly, and he couldn't help but roar. Qiqiu also heard Xinghua's voice and punched the Abyss Saint Dragon back. He looked at Xinghua with a puzzled gaze, then noticed Zhuowen rushing in front of him. "I say, Lord Xinghua, he's just a pure profound saint stage powerhouse. Why are you so nervous?" Qiqiu didn't care at all. He was too engrossed in the battle with the Abyss Saint Dragon just now, so he didn't notice Zhuowen's situation at all. He also didn't know that Zhuowen had a heaven-defying saint artifact. "Leave quickly. This boy has a heaven-defying saint artifact. If we don't leave now, it'll be too late." Xinghua was flustered and exasperated. He stepped out and rushed toward Qiqiu, wanting to save him. "It's too late." Zhuowen arrived in an instant and landed on Xiaohei. When he saw Xiaohei's curled dragon scales, his eyes became extremely cold. "Zhuowen, kill him!" Xiaohei immediately shouted. "Kill me? With just you? What a joke." Qiqiu continued to laugh recklessly. "Yes, with just me and this tile." The corner of Zhuowen's mouth rose slightly. He took out the tile again and rushed toward Qiqiu. "Tile? Ha ha ha, I'm dying of laughter. I'm laughing so hard that my stomach hurts. Ha 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 ha." Qiqiu looked up to the sky and laughed as if he had seen the funniest joke. He hugged his stomach and looked extremely exaggerated, as if he was mocking Zhuowen's ignorance. However, Xinghua, who had rushed over, as well as the countless warriors in the burning Sky City, who had escaped from death, secretly held their foreheads with their right hands. They were all worried about Qiqiu's intelligence. They finally understood what it meant to not die if you don't court death. Qiqiu was a good example of the highest level of courting death. "Your stomach hurts, right? I'll make your entire body hurt later." Zhuowen grinned. The tile once again erupted with a terrifying golden light. The golden light soared into the sky and condensed into a majestic figure. Boom! The majestic figure took a step forward. The mountain-like palm once again blasted down from the sky and suppressed Qiqiu, who was still laughing. This tile is really a heaven-defying saint treasure. How is this possible?" Qiqiu's laughter stopped abruptly and was replaced by shock. He never thought that the ordinary tile that he had laughed at was actually a heaven-defying saint treasure. At this moment, his only thought was to run away. At the same time, his heart was filled with regret. He should have listened to Xinghua and run away immediately. However, the speed of the palm was too fast. In addition, the palm was too vast. When the palm came down, it had the power to cover the sky. Qiqiu knew that he could only take it head-on. "Damn it! As long as I can block this attack, I can escape this calamity." Qiqiu cursed and immediately took out his saint weapon. The saint light was vast and mighty like a snake. It swirled around his body and turned into layers of powerful defense. Boom! The palm came down and blasted on the defense. Following that, cracks appeared on the surface of the defense. Qiqiu spat out a mouthful of blood His entire body became extremely weak, and his eyes were lifeless. Zhuowen did not show any mercy. He once again sent out a palm. This palm was enough to kill Qiqiu. Ice and fire dual heaven. Xinghua rushed over. With an ice blade in his left hand and a fire blade in his right hand, he blocked in front of Qiqiu. He combined the two blades into one, and a huge blade that was filled with ice and fire energy appeared in front of him. Xinghua held the huge blade tightly and raised it towards the sky. The two energies of ice and fire soared into the sky. In an instant, a blade shadow that contained the two terrifying energies of ice and fire flew towards the sky. The blade shadow was too huge. It spanned across the sky and actually divided the sky of the burning sky city into two regions. One region was filled with flames, and the other region was filled with ice and frost. It was as if there really was an ice and fire dual heaven. This blade caused the hearts of all the warriors in the burning sky city to tremble. They were inwardly shocked. Boom! The incomparably huge palm also came crashing down. In the end, it heavily smashed onto the blade shadow and actually stopped. The power of the blade shadow was indeed terrifying. It actually blocked the attack of the heaven-defying Saint Treasure. Break! Zhuowen knew that although Xinghua was at the peak of the Sky Saint realm, and his strength might be much stronger than the 14 Sky Saint realm subordinates he brought, there was still a huge gap between the Sky Saint realm and the heaven-defying Saint realm. Even if Xinghua was at the peak of the Sky Saint realm, he would still be completely annihilated under the attack of the heaven-defying Saint Treasure. Crack! The blade shadow began to shatter. The ice and fire regions that spanned across the sky were also annihilated into nothingness. The moment the blade shadow completely shattered, the huge hand instantly fell. Go! Xinghua snorted. He only felt a fishy sweetness in his roar, but he still managed to dodge the huge hand in advance. Boom! The huge hand fell on the void. Suddenly, countless fragments appeared in the void. The forbidden space that was originally arranged in the surroundings was completely destroyed by the huge hand. I said you can't escape. Zhuowen sneered when he sensed that the space restriction around him had been destroyed. He pinched the void with his right hand, and the void beneath the descending giant hand shattered. The giant hand then entered the void passageway through the shattered void. Ah! Chapter 1576. Memory bead caught off guard. 3 Empyrean saints died on the spot. The remaining 6 saints fled in 6 different directions in panic. Zhuowen's eyes were cold and emotionless. He pointed his finger repeatedly, and the giant hand that blotted out the sky instantly appeared above the 6 fleeing saints, killing them one by one, subduing the enemy without a fight. The 6 saints had lost their courage to fight, so Zhuowen relied on the power of the heaven-defying saint artifact to kill them one by one. If the 6 of them worked together, they might have been able to resist for a while. Damn it! Xinghua retreated several thousand meters with Qiqiu. Seeing the 6 saints being killed one by one, the 2 of them had ugly expressions. As for Zhou Tianzong, seeing that the situation was bad, he immediately chose a direction to flee in. At this moment, Zhou Tianzong was more shocked than anyone else. He was even cursing in his heart. Zhuowen was too abnormal. Not only did he have a heaven-defying saint artifact, he also had a heaven-defying saint artifact. This time, the Ice and Fire family had sent 15 Empyrean saints, but he had killed only 2 of them. This battle record was too terrifying. Zhou Tianzong knew that if he didn't run now, he wouldn't have another chance. Sect Master Zhou, where do you think you're going? An indifferent voice rang out. Zhou Tianzong, who was running away, stiffened, but he quickly fled at an even faster speed. However, Zhou Tianzong did not escape for long. A giant hand broke through the void and appeared in front of him. It grabbed him and plunged back into the void. Sect Master Zhou, I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Now you'd better be honest and hand over Chen Shui's memories, Zhuowen said coldly. While Zhuowen was questioning Zhou Tianzong, Xinghua and Qiqiu didn't dare to move, because the other hand of the saint's shadow from the heaven-defying saint artifact had appeared before them. There was no doubt that if they moved, the hand would mercilessly suppress them. At that time, they would die without a burial place. That thing is in my hands. If you don't want Chen Shui to lose all her memories, you must let me go. Zhou Tianzong's voice was filled with fear. Rumble. Zhuowen's mind moved, and the big hand slammed into Zhou Tianzong's body. Zhou Tianzong coughed up blood, and his face turned pale. Fortunately, Zhuowen had controlled the power of the big hand, so Zhou Tianzong did not die. Finally, Zhou Tianzong was terrified. He did not dare to refute Zhuowen. Hand it over. The lives of these two are also in your hands. If you don't hand it over, they will die in front of you. If you hand it over, they might still be able to live. Zhuowen said. With a thought, the other big hand grabbed Xinghua and Qiqiu, bringing them in front of him. He said coldly to Zhou Tianzong. Hearing Zhuowen's words, Xinghua and Qiqiu revealed a hopeful look. Xinghua even said to Zhou Tianzong, what are you waiting for? Quickly hand over the thing that Zhuowen wants. Do you want to kill us? That's right. What are you hesitating for? If you don't hand it over, we will all die. If you hand it over, we will still have a chance to live. Qiqiu also said. Zhou Tianzong's eyes flickered, and he said in a deep voice, Zhuowen, you win. I will hand over that memory, but you must let the three of us go. Anyway, now that you have the Saint artifact and many other trump cards, we can no longer threaten you. Hand it over first. If you let me know that you cheated me like last time, I don't mind giving up that memory to make you die without a burial place. Zhuowen said coldly. Zhou Tianzong sighed and said, don't worry, I won't play any tricks this time. Saying this, Zhou Tianzong slowly took out a crystal-clear bead from his bosom. This bead contained a blue flame, and in this flame, there were various fragments of images flickering, as if it was a broken film. Zhuowen took the bead, but he was not at ease. Instead, he sent a message to Long Xiaotian and Feng Xiao. Mother, is this a memory fragment? Zhuowen gave the bead to Feng Xiao and asked. Feng Xiao took the bead and looked at it carefully. She said, this bead is indeed a memory fragment, and from the image of this blue flame, it can be seen that this memory indeed belongs to you and that little girl Chen Shui. Hearing this, Zhuowen was filled with joy. He was in a good mood, not willing to let go of the memory bead in his hand, just like a little child who had just received a toy. Chen Shui, this is your memory bead. Look at the image inside. Look, this is you and this is me. Zhuowen came in front of Mu Qinshui and placed the memory bead in front of Mu Qinshui. He pointed at the image inside the blue flame and spoke with a silly smile. Mu Qinshui's beautiful eyes revealed a strange look. She said in a soft voice, really? We really did know each other before, and we really were lovers. Of course. Zhuowen held Mu Qinshui's jade-like hand and came in front of Feng Xiao. He asked, Mother, how can I restore Chen Shui's memories with this memory bead? Implanting a memory fragment into the sea of consciousness is a very complicated process. I know how to do it, but it will take some time, Feng Xiao said in a deep voice. So it's like this. Then let's find a quiet place to restore Chen Shui's memories later. Zhuowen revealed a grin as he carefully placed the memory bead into his spirit ring. This was the memory he shared with Mu Qinshui. So how could he casually place it? Naturally he treasured it. Kacha. Just as Zhuowen was about to put away the memory bead, a clear shattering sound rang out. Zhuowen's right hand that was holding the memory bead suddenly froze, and his heart violently trembled. Feng Xiao, Long Xiaotian, and Mu Qinshui were also attracted by this cracking sound, and they all gathered in Zhuowen's right hand. Cracks began to appear on the surface of the memory bead in Zhuowen's right hand. Moreover, the cracks seemed to be contagious, as they slowly spread to the surroundings. What is going on? Feng Xiao muttered in a low voice. Long Xiaotian and Mu Qinshui were also stunned as they stared at the memory bead in a daze. They could not understand what was happening in front of them. Don't break, you can't break. Zhuowen opened his right hand, and the memory bead quietly laid in his palm. But even like this, the cracks on the bead's surface continued to increase. I won't let you break, I definitely won't. Zhuowen muttered to himself. His spiritual energy spread out like threads and drilled into the bead's cracks. It began to shrink the cracks according to Zhuowen's will. However, the bead's cracks continued to increase. Even if Zhuowen used his spiritual energy to repair the cracks on the bead's surface, it was all to no avail. Zhuowen's efforts were all in vain. However, Zhuowen seemed to have gone crazy. The spiritual energy in his Naiwan palace gushed out like crazy. Zhuowen's body swept out a spiritual storm, looking extremely crazy. Zhuowen calmed down, Long Xiaotian said in a deep voice. But Zhuowen turned a deaf ear to him. He seemed to have fallen into a demon's trap. In his eyes, there was only the bead in his hand. This bead was the shared memory of him and Mu Qinxue. Every time there was a crack on the bead's surface, Zhuowen felt as if there was a crack in his heart. This feeling was very painful, so painful that it almost suffocated him. Zhuowen almost lost his mind. His eyes were bloodshot as he stared at the bead in his hand. Suddenly, a pair of snow-white jade-like hands gently grasped Zhuowen's hand. This jade-like palm faced downwards and clasped together with Zhuowen's palm, blocking the bead that was full of cracks. Zhuowen, it's okay. That's just an ordinary bead. If it's really a memory bead, why would it shatter for no reason? Isn't it? Don't be sad about this. A gentle voice slowly entered Zhuowen's ears. The originally crazy Zhuowen gradually calmed down, as if he had heard a heart-calming song. Slowly raising his eyes, Zhuowen stared at the beautiful lady who was aloof and elegant. Her smile was so contagious. Seeing this smile, Zhuowen's mood suddenly calmed down. Really? Is that really just an ordinary bead? Zhuowen murmured as if he was sleep-talking. Really, that is indeed an ordinary bead. You are Zhuowen. I am Mu Qinxue. We are lovers. I remember everything that happened between us. You once told me shamelessly that you would make me the happiest woman in the world, that you would stand at the peak of the continent, that you would pull down the clouds from the 9 heavens, and pluck the stars from the sky for me as a betrothal gift, didn't you? You once couldn't sleep at night to expel the cold poison from your body. In order to alleviate my pain, you constantly comforted me and told me all kinds of interesting stories. My favorite was the story of Wu Sanggui and Qin Yuanyuan. You once chased after Yin Ruhua and Elder Raiwa alone for me. For this, you didn't hesitate to put yourself in a near-death situation. You even made the whole world your enemy. Even if you were hunted down by the whole world, you never regretted every decision you made for me. I remember everything. Really, you don't have to worry about me. After saying this, Mu Qinxue pinched the memory bead, and then tightly hugged Zhuowen. Really, Qinxue, you really remember everything. This is great, you remember everything. The memories that we share. The memories that only belong to the two of us. This is truly great. Zhuowen hugged Mu Qinshue's waist and returned to normal. He happily muttered in a low voice. However, he didn't see that 2 lines of tears had already rolled down the beautiful face of the woman, who was buried deep in his shoulder. Mu Qinxue was very clear that the things she said were not things that she really remembered, but rather what she saw from the blue flame in the memory bead. Because these were the 3 deepest memories between her and Zhuowen, the memory bead was the clearest. Moreover, Mu Qinxue also knew that the bead in Zhuowen's hand was indeed a memory bead. This was because when the bead shattered, she could clearly feel her sea of consciousness becoming chaotic, and her headache became even more intense. But she did not say anything. She just had to pretend to smile and comfort the man in front of her, who was in a fragile state. Even without the memories, she could still feel that she loved the man in front of her very much. So, she did not want him to be hurt or sad. This was because the sad appearance of the man in front of her made her feel even worse than her own headache. Chapter 1577. Memory Chaos. Hundreds of thousands of miles away from Burning Sky City, a group of people walked through the air. The aura in their bodies surged like a deep-sea whirlpool, constantly absorbing the surrounding world energy and setting off endless hurricanes. At the head of this group, an extraordinarily handsome young man walked slowly. This young man had a blue halo above his head, and the aura around his body surged, transforming into the image of a phoenix spreading its wings and flying. His body faintly emitted the sharp cry of a phoenix. Burning Sky City is in front. I really didn't expect that in this remote southern barbarian, among the lowly warriors, There would be someone who could nurture the phoenix bloodline and black tortoise bloodline. This extraordinarily handsome young man licked his lips and muttered in a slightly mocking tone. Young master may not know, but if it's a lowly warrior from the southern barbarian, it's impossible for them to nurture such a high-grade bloodline. It's even impossible for warriors with special bloodlines to appear in the other 4 regions, except for the central region. However, the Burning Heaven sect of the Southern Barbarian and the Snow Palace of the North Pole were a branch of our Icefire family a long time ago. Because they committed a grave mistake, they were chased out of the central region by the family and settled down outside the central region, which is the Burning Heaven sect and the Snow Palace. A slightly stooped gray-haired old man slowly walked to the side of the young man. His low voice slowly sounded as he explained the origins of the Burning Heaven sect and the Snow Palace. I've also heard of this, but it's only a branch family. Moreover, it's been so long, yet they were still able to nurture the phoenix bloodline and black tortoise bloodline. I'm quite surprised. The young man chuckled. The gray-haired old man's eyes flickered, and he said in a deep voice, "Young master, are you really not planning to report this to the family? After all, the phoenix bloodline and black tortoise bloodline are still relatively important resources to the family. There's no need. Since they're from the branch family, it means that the bloodline power in their bodies is definitely not very dense. In order to not waste their bloodline power, they should all contribute their special bloodline to me and use it to perfect my bloodline." Speaking until here, the young man licked his lips, and his eyes emitted an extremely frightening cold light. Xinghua and the rest should have arrived at Burning Sky City. With their strength, it should be about time for them to bring back those 2 little fellows with bloodline. The gray-haired old man was silent for a moment before he muttered softly. However, his words quickly came to a halt as his right hand froze in midair. "Elder Fong, what's wrong?" The young man also noticed the old man's strange behavior and couldn't help but ask in surprise. "Someone from Glorious Star has already died," the gray-haired old man said with a gloomy face. The young man narrowed his eyes and said in disbelief, "Dead? How could this be? The 14 people Xinghua brought were all at the Sky Saint realm. The southern barbarian lands probably didn't even have a saint at this level, right? Who else can kill Xinghua and the others?" The young man was shocked. Even the gray-haired old man was depressed. He couldn't figure it out. It was impossible for there to be an expert who could kill a Sky Saint realm expert in the Burning Sky City. Not good. More people have fallen. 13 people have died. And now there are only 2 people left. The gray-haired old man's expression changed drastically as he roared. This sentence caused the young man's face to twitch as anger appeared in his eyes. Who is it? Who dared to kill the people of his Ice and Fire clan? Let's go. Let's enter the Burning Sky City and take a look. I want to see who has the guts to kill the people of my Ice and Fire clan. The young man coldly snorted and led the gray-haired old man and his group. They turned into a rainbow and disappeared on the spot as they flew towards the Burning Sky City. In the Burning Sky City, Zhuowen and Mu Qinxue hugged each other tightly before the 2 of them separated. Zhuowen stared at Mu Qinxue as the smile on his face suddenly froze. At this moment, Mu Qinshue's eyes were filled with tears. Her face was pale, and her forehead was covered in cold sweat. It was as if she was enduring some kind of intense pain. "Qinxue, what's wrong?" Zhuowen asked worriedly. "I'm fine, you don't need to worry about me. Let's leave this place quickly. Didn't you say that you would bring me far away?" Mu Qinxue said with a forced smile. Seeing the girl in front of him enduring the pain, Zhuowen's heart ached. He grabbed Mu Qinshue's right hand and slowly opened it. He saw that most of the memory bead in her palm had already shattered. "Zhuowen, don't look at it. This is not a memory bead, it's fine." Mu Qinxue gently stroked Zhuowen's face as she revealed a smile and spoke in a soft voice. Even if she was enduring the pain of 10,000 ants eating away at her heart, she still held on and tried to comfort Zhuowen. I understand everything. "Qinxue, thank you." Zhuowen held the jade-like hand that was stroking his face and gently kissed the back of the jade-like hand. It was as if he didn't do this, the girl in front of him would disappear from his sight. "Zhuowen, you still won't let us go?" Zhou Tianzong has already given it to you. You should fulfill your promise. Xinghua's eyes sparkled as she shouted at Zhuowen's back. That's right. I should fulfill my promise, but before that, I want to ask Sect Master Zhou, why did this bead shatter? Zhuowen did not turn around as he asked in an ice-cold voice. Zhou Tianzong's eyes sparkled as he shook his head and said, I'm not clear on this matter. After all, I gave this bead to you, so the shattering has nothing to do with me. It should be because of you. Zhou Tianzong, can you be any more shameless? The memory bead was made by you, so it wouldn't be hard for you to do something to it. Feng Xiao angrily shouted. Zhou Tianzong's eyes turned dark as he coldly said, Feng Xiao, don't slander me. However, before Zhou Tianzong could finish, the large hand holding him suddenly tightened. Zhou Tianzong did not even have time to react before he exploded, turning into a rain of blood. This, Xinghua and Qiqiu trembled. The two of them knew that the shattering of the memory bead had something to do with Zhou Tianzong. Otherwise, the bead would not have shattered for no reason. Thinking of this, the two of them secretly cursed Zhou Tianzong's stupidity. Zhou Tianzong had dug his own grave, and yet he had dragged them down with him. How hateful! I remember that Zhou Tianzong still has a law clone. Zhuowen muttered in a low voice as killing intent surged in his eyes. He immediately took out the Fushi cauldron as Cheng Huang rode out on the back of the divine turtle. Little Huang, go and collect Zhou Tianzong's aura. Then help me find the location of Zhou Tianzong's clone, Zhuowen said to Cheng Huang. Cheng Huang lazily stretched its back and said, Let me have a look. Cheng Huang grabbed a wisp of blood mist and placed it in the Fushi cauldron. Then it formed a series of seals with its claws at an extremely fast speed. Suddenly, the Fushi cauldron exploded with a dark light as it flew in a certain direction at lightning speed. In the depths of a pavilion in a corner of Burning Sky City, the Fushi cauldron found Zhou Tianzong's clone. Moreover, the Fushi cauldron's unique power crushed down and imprisoned Zhou Tianzong, then brought him before Zhuowen. How did you find my clone? Impossible. At this moment, Zhou Tianzong's face was pale, and his body was trembling. It was because of his clone that Zhou Tianzong had been so fearless before. However, if this clone were to die as well, then he would truly die. Zhuowen gently let go of Mu Qinxue and handed her to Feng Xiao. Then he came before Zhou Tianzong, grabbed his neck, and lifted him up. Zhou Tianzong, you've played tricks on me time and time again. Do you really think that I, Zhuowen, am so easy to bully? Or are you too confident in your own cleverness? Zhuowen said with murderous intent. No, I didn't. Let me go. Zhou Tianzong finally felt fear. He kept struggling, but it was to no avail. It's too late, Zhuowen said coldly. Seeing that Zhuowen was not going to let him go, Zhou Tianzong shouted. Zhuowen, so what if you kill me? Mu Qinshua's memories will become more and more chaotic. In the end, she will completely forget everything. Even her soul will not be able to bear it and collapse. Haha, you can only watch as she slowly forgets you and dies. Shut up. Zhuowen used force in his right hand, and Zhou Tianzong's clone was directly crushed by Zhuowen. This clone was much weaker than him, so even Zhuowen could easily kill him. Zhuowen, there's something wrong with Chen Shui's condition. Feng Xiao's voice came from behind him. Zhuowen's expression changed, and he quickly came to Mu Qinshua's side. At this moment, Mu Qinshua's body was trembling. Her hands were covering her head, as if she was enduring some kind of pain. Her sea of consciousness is still in chaos. I told you before, after using the memory-splitting technique, if the separated memories are destroyed, it will cause chaos in Chen Shui's sea of consciousness. Her memories will slowly disappear, and her soul will collapse in the end. Speaking of this, Feng Xiao gave a soft sigh. She never thought that things would turn out like this. She never thought that Zhou Tianzong would be so ruthless, actually tampering with Mu Qinshua's memories. Looking at Zhuowen's cold eyes, and then looking at Mu Qinshua struggling in pain, Feng Xiao suddenly felt her heart hurt. Why did things turn out like this? Our family of 4 could have been reunited, and could have lived happily together. Feng Xiao said in a helpless voice. Long Xiaotian gently hugged Feng Xiao, and comforted her in a soft voice. Then he said to Zhuowen, Zhuowen, don't be too sad. Perhaps there is a way to cure Chen Shui's condition. What way? Mother, father, you're all helpless. Moreover, Chen Shui is currently losing her memories. When her memories disappear, her soul will collapse. So what can we do now? What should I do? Zhuowen grabbed his head and said in a voice filled with self-blame. Little brat, there is definitely a way. It's said that the Saint Celestial Master's attainments in the soul have reached the peak. If you can find the Saint Celestial Master, perhaps that kind of existence will have a way to save this little girl. Chapter 1578. Young master of the Icefire clan Zhuowen's eyes lit up when he heard this. He stared at Cheng Huang and said, Can a Saint Celestial really help Chen Shui recover her memories and stop her soul from collapsing? In theory, it should be possible. After all, a Saint Celestial has already come into contact with the domain of the soul. They have a unique understanding of the soul. I feel that a Saint Celestial should have a way to solve your little lover's situation, said Cheng Huang. However, it's impossible for a Saint Celestial to exist in the 4 regions. So if you want to find a Saint Celestial, you can only go to the great powers of the Central Plains. Xiao He returned to her original state and flew over to Zhuowen. I have to go to the Central Plains. Zhuowen clenched his fists and flew over to Mu Chenxue. Seeing Mu Chenxue forcefully enduring the pain, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with pain. Zhuowen, I'm fine. Don't worry. Mu Chenxue's lips curled slightly. She forced a smile and signaled to Zhuowen not to worry. However, seeing Mu Chenxue forcefully pretending, Zhuowen's eyes became moist. Seeing Mu Chenxue like this made his heart ache. This memory bead hasn't completely shattered. I can slow down the rate at which it shatters, so I should be able to slow down the pain it brings to Chen Shui. Give me the memory bead, said Feng Xiao. Really? Zhuowen was pleasantly surprised. Then he handed the memory bead over to Feng Xiao. Feng Xiao's beautiful eyes quietly gazed at the memory bead in her palm. Her beautiful eyes flickered as she let out a soft sigh. A gentle energy gushed out from her palm, completely wrapping up the broken memory bead. I am the previous saintess, so I have some knowledge of the soul-splitting secret technique. However, my method can only slow down the rate at which the memory bead shatters. Actually, the bead is still shattering, but it's much slower than before. Feng Xiao held the memory bead in her hand and used her gentle energy to nourish the memory bead as she spoke to Zhuowen. Sure enough, as the gentle energy enveloped the memory bead, Mu Chenxue's reaction became much smaller. It was as if her pain had lessened a lot because of this. It really is effective. Chen Shui, do you feel much better now? Zhuowen held Mu Chenxue's hand and asked in pleasant surprise. Mu Chenxue gently nodded and leaned on Zhuowen's shoulder. She said in a low voice, Yeah, much better. That's good, that's good. Zhuowen gently embraced Mu Chenxue's waist and tightly hugged her. It was as if he didn't do this, the girl in front of him would disappear from his sight at any time. Perhaps Mu Chenxue could also feel how fragile Zhuowen was at this moment. She also tightly hugged Zhuowen's chest and gently said, Don't worry, I'll be fine. I'll always be by your side. However, I'm so sleepy right now. Zhuowen, I want to ask you for a favor. If you can go to the Saintess Pavilion and take Elder Chiu away. He has become an idiot. If no one takes care of him, he won't be able to live alone. I hope you can take care of him. Zhuowen gently let go of Mu Chenxue. He found that the latter's eyes were closed, and the wings of his nose were closed. He had actually fallen into a deep sleep. All right, I promise you. Zhuowen stared at the sleeping Mu Chenxue and said softly, The shattering of the memory bead has caused too much damage to her sea of consciousness. Although I have slowed down the speed of the bead's shattering, Chen Shui is still affected. She is too tired now, let her sleep for a while. Feng Xiao said with some pity. Zhuowen gave Mu Chenxue to Feng Xiao and said, Mother, father, take care of Chen Shui for me. I will bring you into the Azure Dragon Palace. I will join you later. Feng Xiao took Mu Chenxue and looked at Long Xiaotian. Then, under the summons of Zhuowen's Azure Dragon token, they entered the Azure Dragon Palace. After putting Feng Xiao and Long Xiaotian into the Azure Dragon Palace, Zhuowen shrunk the Azure Dragon Palace and put it into his spirit ring. Then, he took a step forward and arrived in front of Xinghua and Qiqiu. He said indifferently, "Right now, I am the knife and you are the fish. If you don't want to die, the two of you only have one choice. Hand over your life essence blood and swear on your life essence that the two of you will become my, Zhuowen's servants. You must not betray me in any way, or you will die. You want us to become your servants? Aren't you going too far? You are just a little brat of the pure profound saint realm. If it weren't for the heaven-defying saint treasure, how could you be so arrogant?" Qiqiu's temper was more irritable. He immediately retorted angrily, his words extremely fierce. "Puchi!" Zhuowen was too lazy to pay attention to Qiqiu's protest. With a thought, the other hand of the heaven-defying saint realm illusory figure suddenly reached out and blasted towards Qiqiu. Qiqiu didn't even make a sound before he turned into a cloud of blood mist. He couldn't be more dead. "If you refute, you will die immediately. If you want to refute like Qiqiu, I don't mind you ending up like him." After casually killing Qiqiu, Zhuowen turned his head to look at Xinghua. That indifferent gaze made Xinghua's heart tremble, and he was on tenterhooks. To think that he, a powerful saint of the Sky Saint realm, was actually intimidated by a mere pure profound saint realm brat's gaze. Life and death are only between your thoughts. You only have 3 breaths of time to make your choice. Zhuowen's gaze fell on Xinghua as he continued. 1, 2, 3. I agree. Xinghua shouted in a low voice, and immediately extracted the life essence blood from his body. He swore with his life that from now on, he would become Zhuowen's servant without any disloyalty. Zhuowen held Xinghua's life essence blood in his right hand, and imprinted it between his eyebrows. In an instant, he could feel Xinghua's current emotions, and even if he had any bad thoughts in his mind, he could immediately know. It could be said that if Xinghua dared to have any ideas about his master, Zhuowen would immediately know. "Master!" Xinghua sighed, lowered his arrogant head, and called out in a low voice. "Don't be so discouraged. If you work well for me in the future, I might be able to set you free." Zhuowen said indifferently, "Really, master?" Xinghua's eyes flickered as he asked in surprise. Of course, the prerequisite is that you have to perform well. Otherwise, I won't set you free for no reason." Zhuowen said indifferently, "Yes, master, your subordinate will do his best to serve you in the future. There will be no disloyalty." Xinghua said excitedly. Zhuowen nodded his head slightly. He knew that he could not blindly suppress his opponent, or else he would easily be rebounded. Only by giving him some benefits after the suppression, and giving him some hope, Zhuowen knew that he would be able to subdue this person for his own use. "Follow behind me. I need to make a trip to the Saintess Pavilion first," Zhuowen said indifferently. However, Xinghua was a little hesitant. He gritted his teeth and said, "Master, I think it's better for you to leave Burning Heaven City immediately. Otherwise it will be too late." What do you mean?" Zhuowen frowned and asked. "The young master of our Ice Fire family is coming soon, and the people he brought this time are stronger than the 15 people I brought. There is even a heaven-defying sage realm expert among them. If master doesn't leave quickly, you won't be able to escape if you meet them." Xinghua gritted his teeth and said, "What? Heaven-defying sage realm? The team that the young master brought is stronger than you?" Zhuowen's pupil shrank. Just the heaven-defying sage realm alone was enough to make Zhuowen tremble in fear. That was a true heaven-defying sage realm expert. Even if he had a heaven-defying sage treasure, in front of such an expert, it was not enough. "Why did your Ice Fire family send so many people? Just the Phoenix bloodline and the Black Tortoise bloodline. There's no need to send so many people, right? Even the heaven-defying sage realm experts are sent. Isn't it too exaggerated?" Zhuowen asked doubtfully. Xinghua sighed softly and said, "This time, taking away the Phoenix bloodline and the Black Tortoise bloodline is only one of the reasons. There's another reason." "What is it?" Zhuowen asked. "Young master has found the traces of the core disciple, who stole the holy symbol of Ice Fire from the family. This time, young master has another purpose. Young master has come for the missing part of the holy symbol of Ice Fire," Xinghua said. Ice fire holy symbol, Zhuowen muttered in a low voice. Hearing Xinghua's words, he knew that the so-called young master would come to the eastern land one day. Thinking of this, Zhuowen knew that he had to hurry back to the eastern land and bring all the people from Ryuka and Jiaxin Academy back to the Azure Dragon Hall. The Azure Dragon Hall was the safest place. You enter the Azure Dragon Hall first. I have some things to do, and will leave the Burning Sky City later. After Zhuowen kept Xinghua in the Azure Dragon Hall, he floated in the air above the Burning Sky City and shouted, "The Ice Fire family will send more people. If you don't want to die, I advise you to leave the Burning Sky City now. Otherwise it will be too late for regrets." After saying this, Zhuowen jumped down and instantly jumped into a dark corner. When he came out again, he had already changed his appearance and became a dark-skinned middle-aged man. The reason why he reminded him was because he knew that if the young master of the Ice Fire family knew that the people he sent were almost completely annihilated in the Burning Sky City, he would definitely be furious. At that time, he might do something irrational. He kindly reminded the people of the Burning Sky City, which could be considered as being extremely benevolent. Saintess Pavilion. Zhuowen looked in the direction of the Saintess Pavilion. Like an arrow leaving the bow, he rushed towards the Saintess Pavilion. And Zhuowen's reminder naturally attracted the attention of many forces in the Burning Sky City. Many warriors were in an uproar. It really is the Ice Fire family. Now that almost all the people from the Ice Fire family have been killed, they shouldn't be looking for us. Why should we leave? Right, the Ice Fire family is a big force in the Central Plains. They won't be so unreasonable. They should be looking for Zhuowen. Zhuowen's suggestion was immediately opposed and disdained by many warriors and forces. They were not willing to leave the Burning Sky City. Of course, the reason why they did not leave was mainly because they coveted the Burning Heaven Sect's foundation. Most of the elites of the Burning Heaven Sect had been killed, and the Burning Flame Tower had collapsed. They had already become an arrow at the end of its flight. For their own interests, it was impossible for these forces to leave the Burning Sky City. Chapter 1579. Great Copper Nirvana Formation. The Saintess Pavilion was already empty. The maids inside had all fled during the battle, not daring to stay for long. There's a sound? Zhuowen's ears twitched, and he immediately heard a strange sound coming from the depths of the Saintess Pavilion. He frowned and quickly entered the Saintess Pavilion. Soon after, he discovered that in a hall deep within the Saintess Pavilion, there were 3 people rummaging through it, looking for something, and one of them was even cursing. Why is there nothing in this Saintess Pavilion, other than that old man who looks like an idiot? I can't find anything valuable inside. What kind of lousy place is this? I thought there were many treasures in this Saintess Pavilion, but I didn't expect it to be so cold. Is this the residence of the Holy Maiden of the Burning Heaven Sect? In the hall, many of the figures rummaging through things were complaining and muttering something. It was obvious that they were quite dissatisfied. Where is that idiot old man? Zhuowen suddenly rushed in front of a martial warriors, lifted him up, and asked coldly. This martial warriors did not expect Zhuowen to suddenly appear. For a moment he was at a loss. Who are you? The other 2 companions who were still rummaging through the place suddenly faced Zhuowen, brandishing their weapons as they stared at Zhuowen vigilantly. Zhuowen's gaze was cold as he directly ignored the 2 of them. Instead, he stared at the martial warriors in his hand and said with killing intent, "Where is that idiot old man you mentioned? Speak or die. How dare you ignore us? You're courting death." The 2 companions shouted angrily as they took a step forward. Like a bolt of lightning, they instantly arrived in front of Zhuowen. Puchi! Zhuowen opened his left hand and suddenly pressed down. Immediately, the 2 martial warriors who rushed over exploded into 2 clouds of blood mist, without even making a sound. Gulp! The cultivator in Zhuowen's hand swallowed his saliva, and his entire body trembled. He hurriedly shouted, "Don't kill me. I'll tell you that idiot old man is upstairs. He's not dead, he was just knocked unconscious by us." Hearing this, Zhuowen carried the martial warrior and rushed up to the 2nd floor. Sure enough, he found the unconscious Elder Chiu in a corner of the second floor. However, at this moment, Elder Chiu was unconscious on the ground. His forehead was full of blood, and his aura was weak. Is this what you meant by knocking him out? You guys want to beat him to death, right? Zhuo Wen's eyes were cold. He didn't give the cultivator a chance to explain, and crushed him to death. Then, he took out an immortal elixir from his spirit ring, and fed it to Elder Chiu. Elder Chiu, who had fainted, slowly opened his eyes after consuming the celestial pill. Save me. Help me. Help me. As soon as Elder Chiu woke up, he curled up in a corner like a lunatic, his voice trembling. Looking at Elder Chiu's appearance, Zhuowen sighed in his heart. Mu Qinxue was right. Elder Chiu had indeed become an idiot. Back in the ancient cave mansion, Elder Chiu's demeanor was unparalleled. At that time, Zhuowen was only at the sovereign realm, while Elder Chiu was already at the emperor realm. But now a few years had passed, and he had transformed from a teenager to a young man. His cultivation had also leaped, and he had become a saint. But Elder Chiu had ended up like this. Zhuowen could not help but sigh in his heart. Elder Chiu, it's okay now. Follow me into the Azure Dragon Hall. Zhuowen waved his sleeve, and pointed his sword at Elder Chiu's neck, causing the emotional Elder Chiu to fall unconscious. Then, he was taken into the Azure Dragon Hall by Zhuowen. It's time to leave Burning Sky City, Zhuowen muttered in a low voice, and then left the Saintess Pavilion. He chose the exit of Burning Sky City, and like an arrow leaving the bow, he shot out explosively. However, just as Zhuowen was about to rush out of the entrance of Burning Sky City, a terrifying restriction suddenly appeared in front of him. Zhuowen, who was originally rushing forward, collided with the restriction, and was sent flying backwards. Zhuowen's legs tapped on the ground, and he landed lightly on the ground. His eyes slowly narrowed as he looked at the restriction. This restriction gave him an extremely dangerous feeling. Furthermore, this restriction was not only in the area in front of him, but had spread throughout the entire Burning Sky City. At this moment, the entire Burning Sky City was enveloped by a huge restriction. In the middle of the Burning Sky City, a copper plate that was about 3 meters large was constantly spinning. The surface of the copper plate had complicated patterns and various runes. It was the center of the restriction that enveloped the entire Burning Sky City. Furthermore, at the top of the copper plate, there was a group of people standing proudly. The leader of this group of people was a handsome young man. This young man's eyes were red and blue, and his eyes were the same as those of Zhuowen, who used the Ice-Fire Holy Talisman. His hair was red and blue. Standing beside this young man, it was as if one could experience the strange feeling of ice and fire. Of course, this feeling was definitely not good. Young master, this old man can no longer sense the auras of the 15 people from Starlight. I'm afraid. Most likely they're dead. Elder Fong slowly walked to the side of the young man, and said in a deep voice. Good, very good. He actually dared to kill my Ice-Fire family's people. Who gave him the guts? The young man's voice became colder and colder. He was high and mighty as he looked down at all the martial warriors in Burning Sky City. His loud and clear voice rang out. Who killed my Ice-Fire family's people? If you don't kill them, I will slaughter the entire Burning Sky City, and bury them with Starlight and the others. It's not us, sir. The one who killed your Ice-Fire family is that Zhuowen. It has nothing to do with us. That's right. It's all that Zhuowen's fault. We didn't participate in it. Sir, you can't just start a massacre without knowing what's right and wrong. Immediately, countless martial warriors below began to defend themselves, hurriedly exposing Zhuowen. At the same time, they separated themselves from Zhuowen. Zhuowen secretly retreated to a remote corner and stared at the huge copper plate in the sky. He could feel that the restriction activated by the copper plate was not ordinary. Although Zhuowen's mental energy was inherited from the profound Saint Master by Fong, the restriction on the copper plate should be of a much higher level than the restriction set up by the profound Saint Master. He could not understand it at the moment. Xiaohei, can you understand this restriction? Zhuowen secretly transmitted his voice. This is the Great Copper Nirvana Formation. It has a very strong destructive power. Within this formation, It can kill all living beings below the saint realm. It can completely trap heavenly saints. It is a very powerful restriction formation, Xiaohei said in a deep voice. Great Copper Nirvana formation? Is there a chance to break it? Zhuowen asked urgently. Yes, give me some time. However, during this time, you must not fight with the guy above. There is a terrifying existence of the heaven-defying saint realm inside. If you fight with him, you will be courting death. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded and said, Don't worry, I know that. Xiaohei nodded. Then, it turned into a ray of black light, and sneakily approached the edge of the restriction. At this moment, the young master of the Icefire family had his hands behind his back. He looked down at the crowd below and said indifferently, Zhuowen? Who is this Zhuowen? Where is he now? That Zhuowen is from the eastern lands, Ryuka. He should have already left Burning Sky City. Lord, you can go to the eastern lands to find that Zhuowen. This matter has nothing to do with our Burning Sky City. As for that Zhuowen, he is the one who turned our Burning Sky City into such a state. Speaking of which, that Zhuowen truly deserves to die. My lord, if you find that Zhuowen, you must make him suffer a fate worse than death. Just as the young master finished speaking, someone immediately sold out Zhuowen's information, and quickly received the approval of many people around him. Zhuowen coldly looked at the people who sold him out, and sneered in his heart. In order to protect themselves, these people really did their best to slander him, Zhuowen. Furthermore, Zhuowen had already reminded them to leave Burning Sky City as soon as possible. Not only did these people not listen, they even blamed him, Zhuowen. Zhuowen knew that these people were a bunch of selfish people. Oh, so that's how it is. That Zhuowen killed the people of my Icefire family. You guys are just watching a good show from the side. Our Icefire family fell in your Burning Sky City. Do you guys feel very happy? The young man looked around, his voice becoming colder and colder. His body emitted a murderous aura. Young master, there are no traces of anyone escaping within a radius of tens of thousands of miles. Unless that Zhuowen's speed is very fast, and he quickly left tens of thousands of miles away. It's impossible for this old man to not sense him. But in such a short period of time, it's impossible, unless he's an expert of the immortal saint realm. Elder Fong said respectfully. In other words, the culprit who killed Xinghua and the others is very likely to be among this group of people? Then let's slaughter the city. At that time, we'll be able to force the culprit out. To be able to kill 15 people from Xinghua, this person is at least in the Sky Sage realm. No matter how he disguises himself, if we slaughter the city, he won't be able to escape our search. The young man said casually. Young master is right. Now open the great copper nirvana array. Elder Fong bowed slightly and waved his sleeve. His skinny palm pressed against the surface of the huge copper wheel. Suddenly, the copper wheel spun at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In an instant, the rapidly spinning copper wheel split into countless copper shadows. The copper shadows densely covered the entire space. It was as if these copper shadows were everywhere in the Burning Sky City at this moment. Whoosh, whoosh. The speed of the bronze wheels was too fast. Many warriors with low cultivation in the Burning Sky City did not even have time to react before they were cut into countless pieces by the densely packed bronze shadows. Moreover, this scene was happening in every corner of the Burning Sky City. The screams were like a symphony, gathering into a deafening and terrifying sound in the surroundings. The screams, the sound of flesh and blood tearing, and the sound of weapons clashing, filled the entire Burning Sky City at this moment. And the originally peaceful Burning Sky City, at this moment, turned into an azure blood field. Blood soared to the sky, and turned into a pattering rain of blood. Chapter 1580. Slaughtering a City. Burning Sky City. This was a city that had stood in the southern barbarian for a long time. It was also the famous City of Flames, but today, it had completely become a city of blood. This city was constantly filled with blood and slaughter, as well as all kinds of wails and screams. Zhuowen waved his right hand, and the countless bronze wheel phantoms that had gathered around him were all shattered. He felt a slight numbness in his arm, and his heart was faintly shaken. The power of these bronze wheel phantoms was not ordinary. No wonder Xiao He said that this great copper nirvana array could kill all cultivators below the sage realm. How could anyone below the sage realm withstand such a terrifying bronze wheel phantoms? Looking around, except for a few cultivators whose strength had reached the profound sage realm, most of the cultivators in Burning Sky City had died. In less than 10 breaths of time, only a few dozen cultivators were still alive. These were basically the profound sage-level sages of the major forces. Only a few dozen people were left in the huge Burning Sky City. It looked empty and quiet, as if it was a dead city. The youth standing on the bronze wheel looked around, and his gaze fell on the few dozen people. He narrowed his eyes and coldly said, "All of you are profound sage-level trash. It seems that the murderer really isn't in Burning Sky City." The remaining dozens of people in Burning Sky City trembled when they heard the young man's cold and emotionless words. The young master of the Icefire clan was too ruthless. He had actually massacred an entire city. Moreover, he did not even blink. "Young master, what should we do with these people?" Old Fong respectfully asked. "What else can we do? Everyone else is dead, so what's the point of them being alive? Send someone to slaughter them, and then we'll leave this place first," the youth indifferently said. Old Fong cupped his hands and said in a deep voice, "Xingping, you stay here and clean up the remaining people. After you're done, follow us." "Understood, Old Fong, young master." A tall and straight man dressed in black clothes slowly walked out. He licked his lips, and a trace of cruelty appeared in his eyes. "I'll leave the great copper nirvana array to you. When the time comes, bring it back to me. Let's go." The young master of the Ice and Fire clan nodded at Xingping. With a wave of his sleeve, he left behind the great copper nirvana array. Then, he turned into a wisp of green smoke and left the place with the remaining people. As for the man in black clothes, he was like a meteor as he suddenly fell downwards. He laughed heartily and said, "A group of pitiful lambs. I'll let you all have a good taste of death. It's another Sky Sage realm expert. Let us go. This has nothing to do with us. It's all that Zhuowen's doing. If you want to find someone, you should find that Zhuowen. Zhuowen is a Ryuka. He will definitely return to the east. If you go to the east, you will definitely find Zhuowen. Let us go." The remaining survivors had already lost their will to fight. They repeatedly begged the man in black clothes for mercy, and they did not hesitate to reveal Zhuowen's background. Zhuowen looked on coldly from the sidelines. He might have felt some pity for these people before, but when he heard that these people did not hesitate to use him as a scapegoat in order to save their own lives, Zhuowen knew that these people were not worthy of his rescue. "I wonder if Xiao He has dealt with the great copper nirvana array," Zhuowen muttered. "You talk too much. Our young master is planning to go to the east. Do you need to say more? You'd better go play in the netherworld." Xingping licked his lips and did not say anything else. He kicked out like an arrow, and his figure was illusory, with a swipe of his hands in the air. His saint energy turned into threads that were so fine that they were almost undetectable. These threads streaked across the air at an extremely fast speed. In just an instant, several people had fallen without them even realizing it. "Run!" This kind of silent death caused the others to be completely terrified. They were at a loss of what to do, panicked, and dispersed in an uproar. But no matter how they fled, when they were several hundred meters away from the black-clothed man, their heads would fall to the ground. This was because the black-clothed man had already set up an invisible thread around the perimeter of several hundred meters in advance. As long as someone dared to escape, the threads would cut off their heads like a poisonous snake. The way you die is really interesting. The man in black clothes licked his lips and laughed wantonly like a madman. In a short while, the remaining dozens of people in the Burning Sky City were almost all killed. The only one left was Zhuowen, who was standing aside and watching coldly. "The sound of blood splashing is definitely the most beautiful sound in the world to me. Don't you think so?" The black-clothed man slowly withdrew the threads that covered the surroundings. Then, he looked at Zhuowen with a dazed look in his eyes. "Seems like there's something wrong with your head," Zhuowen said slowly, and the words that came out of his mouth made the man in black clothes' face stiffen. You dare to provoke me? Do you know the consequences of provoking me? The man in black clothes narrowed his eyes and slowly walked towards Zhuowen. With a wave of his right hand, countless threads silently approached Zhuowen, and then suddenly tightened, wanting to tear Zhuowen into pieces. Consequences? With just you. The corner of Zhuowen's mouth curled up. Just now, among the group of people, Zhuowen was most afraid of the young master of the Ice and Fire family and Elder Fong. The remaining people's strength was about the same as the people brought by Xing Hui, so he didn't care too much about them. The moment the threads rushed over, Zhuowen took a step forward and escaped into the void, dodging the attacks of the threads. It seems like your ability to escape is not bad, but it ends here. The man in black clothes narrowed his eyes, and with a wave of his hands, countless threads suddenly rushed towards Zhuowen, who had just rushed out from another void. Zhuowen waved his right hand and took out the ordinary tile. He used his saint power to completely activate the tile's power, and the imposing Saint Realm shadow of the Saint Realm stepped out and slammed his palm down. Bang! 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 Instantly, the countless threads that were rushing over collapsed with a loud bang, and the man in black who was controlling the threads was pushed back by the terrifying recoil. What? This is a saint treasure? Why do you have this kind of thing? The man in black clothes couldn't believe it. He stared at Zhuowen and kept retreating. Zhuowen didn't bother to pay attention to him, and with a thought, the palm of the imposing figure was like a mountain, and instantly swept in front of the man in black clothes. No. Are you the one who killed Xing Hui and the others? Relying on this saint treasure? The man in black clothes pulled with his hands, and countless threads gathered from the surroundings. These threads were his saint weapon, and were extremely hidden. It was difficult to see them with the naked eye, and they killed silently. Crack. Unfortunately, in the face of the heaven-defying saint treasure, the saint weapon in the black suit was completely useless. It was directly destroyed. The man in the black suit let out a miserable shriek before he was completely annihilated by the palm. After killing the man in black clothes, Zhuowen transmitted his voice to Xiaohe. Xiaohe, are you done? Whoosh. After a while, Xiaohe rushed out. He stared at the copper wheel that was constantly spinning above, and said, Basically, the formation has been successfully broken. But since the people of the Ice and Fire family left the Great Copper Nirvana formation behind, you don't have to be polite. Take it away. Hee, of course. This Great Copper Nirvana formation can be left for the family to use. Zhuowen grinned and rushed to the sky above Burning Sky City. With a grab of his right hand, he grabbed the copper wheel. Since the formation was broken by Xiaohe, Zhuowen didn't have a hard time taking down the copper wheel. Let's go. I think you killed the people of the Ice and Fire family and took away their Great Copper Nirvana formation. I'm afraid those guys will return soon, Xiaohe quickly said. Zhuowen nodded, took down the copper wheel, and left Burning Sky City like an arrow leaving the bow. In order to increase his speed, Zhuowen even unfolded his lightning wings and repeatedly used the Void Law, covering the surface of his wings. In an instant, his speed reached the limit, and as if he had teleported, he disappeared from Burning Sky City. Not long after Zhuowen left, the people of the Ice and Fire family returned. When the young master of the Ice and Fire family stared at the copper wheel that disappeared in the sky, his face was extremely gloomy. Young master, Xingping is dead, and even the Great Copper Nirvana formation has been taken away. Elder Fong said with some apprehension. The young master of the Ice and Fire family took a deep breath and said coldly, Good. It seems that the culprit was still hiding in Burning Sky City. I was careless. Not only did he kill Xingping, but he also took away the Great Copper Nirvana formation. Young master, what should we do? Elder Fong asked. Go to the Eastern Lands. This matter definitely has something to do with the Ryuka in the Eastern Lands. Also, didn't we hear that the core disciple who betrayed the family fled to the Eastern Lands? Maybe I can find a part of the Ice and Fire sacred symbol's origin in the Eastern Lands. The young master of the Ice and Fire family coldly snorted and led the group to leave Burning Sky City and head to the eastern lands. Zhuowen did not stop, and with the help of the lightning wings and the void law, he flew towards the eastern lands at an extremely fast speed. It only took him half a month to return to the eastern lands. When he returned, he heard that most of the empires in the eastern lands had been taken over by the Black Dragon Empire. Almost the entire eastern lands was in the hands of the Black Dragon Empire. However, Zhuowen was not in the mood to care about this matter. He directly entered the Dragon Spectre realm, and without a word, kept all the Ryuka in the Dragon Spectre realm into the Azure Dragon Hall. After doing this, Zhuowen rushed to the Divine Spectre realm. With Yanji and the other two, Zhuowen quickly persuaded the people of the Excellent Gods Institute to move the academy into the Azure Dragon Hall. Because of Wu Dai, Zhuowen also went to the Demon God Palace in the Demon Realm. However, the Palace Master of the Demon God Palace refused to enter the Azure Dragon Hall, so Zhuowen did not force him. After doing all this, Zhuowen let out a light breath and walked out of the 9 Netherworld realm, planning to leave the 9 Netherworld realm. Chapter 1581. Unlucky. Zhuowen had a bad feeling in his heart. He didn't expect to meet the Icefire family at this time. The Icefire family's members were very fast, and they appeared in front of Zhuowen as if they had teleported. Zhuowen originally wanted to pretend that he didn't see anything and wanted to pass by the crowd, but he was stopped. You are? Zhuowen pretended to be puzzled as he looked at the Icefire family's members. You're a cultivator from the 9 Netherworld realm? Which Netherworld realm do you belong to? The Icefire family's young master said coldly as he looked down at Zhuowen. Zhuowen was stunned, and his eyes flashed. He smiled and said, I'm a disciple of the Demon Netherworld Realm's Demon God Palace. What business do you have? Our goal is the Divine Netherworld Realm and the Dragon Netherworld Realm. Do you know the specific paths in these 2 Netherworld realms? The Icefire family's young master asked indifferently. Zhuowen was silent for a moment, then pointed at the heavenly pillars at the end of the Sea of Bitterness that represented the Dragon Netherworld Realm and the Divine Netherworld Realm, and said, These 2 pillars are the entrances to the Dragon Netherworld Realm and the Divine Netherworld Realm. If you want to enter, you only need to enter the 2 pillars teleportation arrays. And let's split into 2. Old Fong, you take half of the people into the Dragon Netherworld Realm and see if Ryuka is inside. I'll take the other half. It's said that there's a force called the Divine Academy in the Divine Netherworld Realm, and the most famous building is called the Icefire Dual Polarity Palace. I'm very interested in this building. Speaking until here, the Icefire family's young master licked his lips and sneered. Yes, then this old man will enter the Dragon Netherworld Realm first. Old Fong cupped his hands and led half of the people into the Dragon Netherworld Realm. Soon, only the Icefire family's young master and his group were left. This time, the young master of the Ice and Fire clan had brought a total of 20 people with him. Old Fong had taken 10 people with him, and the remaining 10 people followed the young master. You should have heard of the Divine Spectre Realm's Jiaoshan College, right? How much do you know about the Ice and Fire Dual Extreme Palace? The Ice and Fire clan's young master looked at Zhuowen and asked. Zhuowen was startled. He did not expect that the young master of the Icefire family would be able to send away Elder Fong, who had the strongest cultivation base. With the young master's current lineup, Zhuowen knew that he had a high chance of escaping. However, he needed an opportunity. Oh, this sir is asking about the Ice and Fire Dual Polarity Hall. That building is the most famous building in the Divine Academy. It is said that the 2 extreme energies of ice and fire can coexist inside. It is the best training ground that the Divine Academy has left for the younger generation. When he spoke up to hear, Zhuowen suddenly stuck his head out, as if he wanted to reveal some kind of secret, and said softly, Rumor has it that one of the 9 legendary Saint Talismans, the Ice Flame Saint Talisman, exists in the Ice and Fire Dual Polarity Palace. What? Is it really the Icefire Saint Talisman? The eyes of the young master of the Icefire family shrank to the size of needles, and he could not help but cry out in surprise. Their Icefire family was one of the major powers in the Central Plains. They were high and mighty, and the eastern lands, southern barbarian, western regions and northern regions were only small and remote places in the Central Plains. They did not even put them in their eyes. For countless years, the Icefire family had been searching for the missing part of the Icefire Saint Talisman's origin. However, they could not break away from the shackles of their thoughts. They believed that a part of the Icefire Saint Talisman's origin must be in the Central Plains. Therefore, for thousands of years, the Icefire family had been searching for it day after day in the Central Plains, but in the end, they had failed. However, the young master of the Icefire family in front of him had taken a different approach. He believed that the missing part of the Icefire Saint Talisman's origin was very likely to be in the 4 regions outside of the Central Plains. Therefore, the young master of the Icefire family had secretly followed the family when they came to pick up the disciples with the Phoenix bloodline and the Black Tortoise bloodline. His goal was to find the missing part of the Icefire Saint Talisman's origin in the 4 regions. The young master of the Icefire family knew that if he could really find the missing part of the Icefire Saint Talisman's origin, he would make an unprecedented contribution. At that time, he might be noticed by the family's old ancestor. Being noticed by the family's old ancestor would be of great benefit to him when he ran for the position of patriarch in the future. After all, the Icefire family had countless descendants. They also had descendants who were more outstanding than him. It was undoubtedly extremely difficult to stand out among the countless descendants of such a powerful family and successfully run for the position of patriarch. Although he was indeed talented, there were some people in the family who were more talented than him. He knew that if he did not make outstanding contributions, it would be very difficult for him to run for the position of patriarch in the future. Being able to find the missing part of the Icefire Saint Talisman's origin was undoubtedly a huge contribution to the family. He could also rely on this huge contribution to gain the attention and even the favor of the family's old ancestor. Are you sure that it's really the Icefire Saint Talisman? The young master of the Icefire family was extremely excited as he hurriedly asked, "I'm not very sure about this. If you want to find out the truth, you can enter the Divine Nether Realm's Ice and Fire Duel Hall to take a look." Zhuowen shook his head, but his heart sank. He knew that the young master of the Icefire family in front of him had come for the Icefire Saint Talisman. Of course, now that he had arranged for all the people from Ryuka and Divine Nether Realms to enter the Azure Dragon Palace. Even if the Icefire family came looking for him, Zhuowen was not worried. Right now, Zhuowen was looking forward to the young master of the Icefire family entering the Divine Nether Realm so that he could leave as soon as possible. "Yes, you're right. Now lead the way for me. I want to reach Divine Nether Realms as soon as possible," the young master of the Icefire family said anxiously. Zhuowen was startled, and then said with some hesitation, "Sir, I'm not too sure about the geographical location of the Divine Nether Realm. Why don't you enter the Divine Nether Realm and find someone from the Divine Nether Realm to lead the way? It might be more efficient than me." The young master asked you to lead the way, and you still dare to disobey. Do you want to die? Before the young master of the Icefire family could say anything, one of the martial warriors beside him grabbed out with his right hand. The Saint Force condensed into a large hand and fiercely pressed down on Zhuowen. Of course, this person also knew that the person in front of him was someone from the 9 Nether Realm and could lead the way for his young master, so he did not kill him. Feeling the howling wind, Zhuowen's face darkened. With a flip of his right hand, he took out the ordinary-looking tile and injected his Saint Force into it. A terrifying golden shadow that could support the heavens shot out from the tile and grabbed the incoming hand, crushing it into pieces. "What is this?" The martial warrior who attacked was shocked. With a muffled groan, he was sent flying backwards and only managed to stop himself when he was nearly 1,000 meters away. "Heaven-defying Saint Treasure? Who are you?" The young master of the Icefire family kept retreating. Then, he narrowed his eyes and coldly stared at Zhuowen. "I don't want to be your enemy. You go your way, and I'll go mine. Let's mind our own business." Zhuowen said coldly with the tile in his hand. It's impossible for a mere eastern land to have a heaven-defying saint treasure, unless you're from the central land. But you say you're from the Nine Nether Realm. Could it be that you're that Zhuowen who caused a huge commotion in the southern barbarian burning sky city? The young master of the Icefire family narrowed his eyes and coldly stared at Zhuowen as he analyzed. He had specially inquired about Zhuowen and knew that this unknown guy had many treasures on him. I'm afraid you've got the wrong person. I'm not some Zhuowen. If there's nothing else, I won't accompany you. As Zhuowen spoke, he immediately used the Void Law. His speed was as fast as lightning, and he instantly disappeared from his original spot. You're not the only one with a heaven-defying saint treasure. The young master of the Icefire family sneered. With a flick of his finger, he took out a short blade. The short blade shot out like a meteor, tearing through the void. With a fierce slash, the void thousands of meters away collapsed, and a figure flew out from the void in a rather sorry state. Heaven-defying saint treasure? Looking at the long blade that was slashing towards him, Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. With a thought, the power of the tile surged out, revealing a huge shadow. The illusory figure took a step forward and punched the long saber. Then, the aftershock of the two attacks spread out, and the surrounding space collapsed inch by inch, forming countless invisible fragments. From afar, it looked like a huge chasm that stretched across the sky. It was extremely spectacular. The long blade and the tile were evenly matched. After all, both of them were heaven-defying saint treasures. However, Zhuowen could clearly feel that the light on the surface of the tile had dimmed a little. Heaven-defying saint treasures were not heaven-defying saint weapons. As the number of times they were used increased, the saint aura on the surface would gradually weaken and eventually become useless. Surround him. The young master of the Icefire family shouted coldly. Suddenly, the 10 saints beside him split into 10 directions and rushed towards Zhuowen, wanting to make him stay. Seeing the 10 saints joining forces, Zhuowen's eyelids twitched. He knew that if he was surrounded by these 10 people, it would be difficult for him to escape. Buddha kowtows 9 times to heaven. The first kowtow to heaven, the second kowtow to heaven, and the third kowtow to heaven. The first kowtow to the 10 forbidden lands of the devil, the first kowtow to the ghost land, the second kowtow to the death land, and the third kowtow to the swamp land. Zhuowen's right hand touched his glabella. Suddenly, 3 Buddha and 3 devil shadows appeared behind him. The Buddha shadow crushed down from the sky and kowtowed to the ground. An invisible pressure spread out from the surroundings. The devil shadow drilled into the ground, creating countless ghosts and monsters. The swamp land was filled with deathly stillness. There were layers of devil shadows inside, and devil hands soared into the sky. The combination of the Buddha shadow and the devil shadow instantly stopped the 10 saints sent by the young master of the Icefire family. They couldn't rush over immediately. However, these 10 saints were sky saints after all. It was only a matter of time before they broke through the Buddha shadow and the devil shadow. At that time, not only would Zhuowen have to face the attack of a heaven-defying saint weapon, but he would also be besieged by 10 sky saints. If the other party didn't have a heaven-defying saint weapon, Zhuowen wouldn't be afraid. Unfortunately, the young master of the Icefire family had a heaven-defying saint weapon, so Zhuowen's tile was useless. Chapter 1582. Waiting for rabbits, let's go. Zhuowen didn't want to be entangled with the young master of the Icefire family. After blocking the long blade with the tile, Zhuowen rushed in a certain direction. Want to leave? It's not that easy. The young master of the Icefire family sneered and urged the short blade to force Zhuowen. Zhuowen was about to succeed in escaping, but he was forced back, making Zhuowen gnash his teeth in anger. I can't go on like this. The 10 Sky Saint stage saints will break free soon. Moreover, I don't know when Elder Fong, whose cultivation has reached the heaven-defying saint stage, will return. I can't be delayed here. Zhuowen gritted his teeth and summoned a figure from the Azure Dragon Hall. This figure was none other than Xinghua, who he had just subdued. Master. Xinghua cupped his hands respectfully. Use this heaven-defying saint artifact for the time being. Help me block this troublesome long blade. Zhuowen threw the spirit-devouring lava river to Xinghua and said urgently. Xinghua caught the spirit-devouring lava river and was a little surprised. He didn't expect that Zhuowen would give him such a precious treasure. However, when he saw the long blade colliding with the shadow created by the tile, he couldn't help but exclaim, "Isn't this the young master's heaven-defying saint artifact? Long River Blade? Did you meet the young master? Cut the crap. If you don't want to die, help me block this Long River Blade," Zhuowen said coldly. Xinghua's face froze when he saw Zhuowen's appearance. Naturally, he didn't dare to disobey Zhuowen's order. He took the spirit-devouring lava river and refined it simply. Then, he urged the spirit-devouring lava river to attack the Long River Blade. Boom! The endless lava spread high up in the sky, forming an earth-shattering dragon. When the dragon opened its mouth, it looked as if it could swallow everything. There was no doubt that the power of the spirit-swallowing magma river that was activated by Xing Hui was much stronger than Zhuowen's. After all, his cultivation was much higher than Zhuowen's. Naturally, he could unleash most of the power of the spirit-swallowing magma river. The spirit-swallowing lava river and the heaven-defying Saint Treasure's tile combined to suppress Long River Blade, forcing it to retreat. This is a good opportunity. Let's go. The moment Long River Blade retreated, Zhuowen took advantage of a gap and immediately escaped into the void with Xinghua. At the same time, he unfurled his purple lightning wings. With the void law and the purple lightning wings, Zhuowen's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared. Clang! The young master of the Icefire clan waved his right hand and held Long River Blade in his hand. His expression was ugly as he said in a deep voice, "That was Xing Hui, right?" At this moment, the 10 Sky Saint stage saints had also broken free from the Buddha and demonic shadows and came to the young master of the Icefire clan. One of them said carefully, "Young master is right. That was indeed Xing Hui, but Xinghua, this fellow, I'm afraid that he has already handed over his life essence blood to this Zhuowen, right? How dare he help Zhuowen? If I catch him in the future, I'll make them suffer a fate worse than death," the young master of the Icefire clan said coldly. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. "Young master, you're out so soon? Did you find anything in the Divine Spectre realm?" Seeing the young master of the Icefire clan and the others, Elder Fong asked in surprise. The young master of the Icefire clan said with a gloomy face, "We haven't entered yet. Elder Fong, you didn't find Ryuka in the Dragon Spectre realm, right?" "How do you know, young master?" Elder Fong asked in surprise. "Because the young man we met just now is the Zhuowen we're looking for. I'm afraid the Ryuka has already been moved away by him." The young master of the Icefire clan began to narrate what had happened just now. Elder Fong was also shocked. At the same time, he said regretfully, "If this old man was here just now, how could Zhuowen have escaped?" However, even though it was a pity, Zhuowen had already escaped. There was no way they could pursue the matter any further. However, they would not give up just like that. After all, Zhuowen had killed many members of their Icefire clan. If they did not capture him, they would not let this matter rest. With that Zhuowen's talent, he will definitely go to the Central Plains in the future. When we return to the clan, we'll send people to pay attention to his whereabouts. With the power of our Icefire clan, I don't believe we won't be able to find out anything about him," the young master of the Icefire clan said coldly. "Young master, shouldn't we enter the Divine Spectre realm to take a look? If the Divine Spectre realm really has the Holy Icefire Talisman, then you'll have done a great deed for the clan. In the future, you'll be able to become the clan head," Elder Fong said warmly. Let's go. Let's go in and take a look." The young master of the Icefire clan was full of joy. He was also somewhat anxious. After all, on the way to the Eastern lands, it wasn't like he hadn't heard about the Excellent Gods Institute. Most of the rumors said that the Icefire Dual Polarity Hall in the Excellent Gods Institute contained the Holy Icefire Talisman. Above the ruins of the Excellent Gods Institute, A group of people from the Icefire clan floated in the air, quietly looking at the desolate area. The young master of the Icefire clan couldn't help but twitch his mouth. He looked down at the desolate area and said in a deep voice, "Excellent Gods Institute? What about the Icefire Dual Polarity Hall?" "Young master, I've asked a few warriors living in the Divine Spectre realm. They said that Zhuowen had come to the Excellent Gods Institute before, and moved the people there away. The Icefire Dual Polarity Hall seemed to have been taken away as well." Elder Fong said helplessly, "It's that Zhuowen again. In other words, the Holy Icefire Talisman is most likely in the hands of that little bastard?" The young master of the Icefire clan suddenly swung his hand, and a terrifying saint energy burst out. The surrounding space collapsed, and countless storms of dust swept out. At this moment, he was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Why was everything related to that Zhuowen? He didn't expect that in this trip to the eastern lands and southern barbarians, he would end up in the hands of that damn Zhuowen. It was too infuriating. "Young master, looking for that Zhuowen in the 4 great domains is like looking for a needle in a haystack. I'm afraid that Zhuowen won't be easy to find." Elder Fong smiled bitterly. Let's return to the Middle Lands first. The Blood Refining Mansion, Darkness Mansion, and Golden Sun Mansion are in charge of the teleportation arrays there. That Zhuowen will definitely come to the Middle Lands. Since he's coming to the Middle Lands, he'll definitely use the teleportation arrays to enter the teleportation arrays of the 3 mansions. The young master of the Icefire clan said. Elder Fong was startled, and immediately said, "Young master, are you planning to wait for him to come? This is the only way now. I can't stay in the 4 great domains for too long. After returning, we'll send more people to the 3 mansions. If that Zhuowen really comes to the Middle Lands, don't make a fuss. Report to me first." The young master of the Icefire clan said. "Young master is right." Elder Fong bowed from afar. Zhuowen traveled through the void for 3 days and 3 nights, before finally emerging from the void. This place was a barren desert. There were few signs of human habitation, and the wind blew sand and stones. "Master, this is your heaven-defying saint weapon." Xinghua, who was beside him, respectfully handed the spirit-swallowing lava river to Zhuowen, and immediately stood to the side. "Let's enter the Azure Dragon Hall first." Zhuowen took out the Azure Dragon token, and teleported Xinghua and himself into the Azure Dragon Hall. Under Zhuowen's control, the Azure Dragon Hall turned into the size of a speck of dust and blended into the boundless desert, becoming inconspicuous. On the Azure Dragon Square, there were many people gathered. Among them, Long Xiaotian, Feng Xiao, Lu Hantian, and the others who were close to Zhuowen were all standing in the square. "Zhuowen, When Zhuowen came in, Long Xiaotian and Feng Xiao immediately went up to welcome him, while Lu Hantian and the others followed behind. "Father, Mother, where's Chen Shui?" Zhuowen asked with a trembling voice. Long Xiaotian and Feng Xiao looked at each other. Feng Xiao sighed and said, "Come with me. That girl Chen Shui is still in the 2nd heaven and earth. Moreover, her memory is beginning to degenerate. There are some people that she can't remember." Hearing this, Zhuowen's heart trembled, and his footsteps were a little shaky. However, he quickly calmed down and said in a deep voice, "Take me to see her." With that, Feng Xiao and Long Xiaotian led the way and entered the 2nd heaven and earth. This was an extremely secluded pavilion. In the courtyard in front of the pavilion, there were all kinds of flowers. Peonies, lilies, roses, phoenix suns, and other kinds of flowers. Standing in the courtyard, it was as if one was in the middle of 100 flowers. The fragrance of the flowers assailed one's nose and refreshed one's heart. In the midst of the hundreds of flowers, a graceful woman was dancing lightly. The flowers that filled the sky swayed along with her waist and gathered around her body. The woman's bell-like laughter was like the most beautiful music in the world. Seeing the beautiful figure dancing in the middle of the 100 flowers, in that instant, Zhuowen's heart was filled with a complex emotion that even he could not describe. In the depths of this emotion, Zhuowen felt a faint pain in his heart. The woman in front of him was very beautiful, Her graceful dancing figure was like an unrestrained butterfly dancing in the middle of the flowers. Accompanied by this graceful dance, accompanied by the petals that fluttered like flowing water, a soft and pleasant sound of a guzheng quietly brushed past his ears. Quietly listening to the sound of the guzheng, quietly listening to the woman's giggles, silently admiring the woman's graceful dance, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed in satisfaction. He slowly walked into the middle of the 100 flowers. The hostility in his body had long been restrained. At this moment, he seemed to have blended into this beautiful scenery. Feng Xiao, Long Xiaotian, and the people behind them did not make a sound. They all held their breaths as they watched this scene. They did not dare to make too much noise to disturb this beautiful scene. The sound of feet stepping on flower petals rang out, finally attracting the attention of the dancing woman. The woman twisted her graceful waist and turned around. That beautiful smile was facing Zhuowen. That pair of clear and beautiful eyes fell on Zhuowen's brows. Zhuowen also looked at the woman in front of him with a smile. He slowly walked to the front of the woman. "Who are you? You are so familiar." The woman's bright eyes stared at the man in front of her, as she softly muttered. Zhuowen's body stiffened. The emotion in the deepest part of his heart was completely touched at this moment. In this emotion, there was a heart-wrenching pain. "It doesn't matter if you don't know me. From now on we know each other. My name is Zhuowen. Please remember this name well." Chapter 1583. Holding your hand. I'll accompany you for 8,000 lives. Are you crying? Because I'm too excited. Why are you so excited? Because I finally brought you back and saw you. Why are you so excited to see me? Because I love you. Amidst the flowers, Zhuowen gently hugged Mu Qinxue. The two of them asked and answered, as if the two closest lovers were whispering to each other. However, the words that were spoken caused Feng Xiao and the others, who were watching from outside the courtyard, to feel a lump in their throat as tears flowed down their cheeks. "I remember your name. I know the name Zhuowen, but I can't remember what Zhuowen looks like. What's wrong with me?" Mu Qinxue slowly separated from Zhuowen. She stared at the young man in front of her, and discovered that the young man in front of her was crying, as if he was crying like a helpless child. Even in the midst of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, in the midst of endless slaughter, there would still not be much emotion in his eyes. But now they were filled with tears. At this moment, Zhuowen was no longer the cold martial artist, who constantly climbed to the peak and treated human life like dirt. Instead, he was a heartbroken person who was constantly crying, because his lover had forgotten him. "Don't cry, tell me a story. I remember that there's a guy called Zhuowen. He used to tell me a story. Do you know how to tell a story?" Mu Qinxue gently wiped away the tears on Zhuowen's cheeks and giggled. Zhuowen immediately turned his tears into laughter. With his arms around Mu Qinxue, he slowly sat in the middle of the flowers and said softly, "Shanghai Pass's commander Wu Sangui was furious because Chun Yuanyuan was taken away by Lu Zongmin. He refused to surrender to Li Zicheng and led the Qing troops into the pass." Zhuowen began to tell the story of Wu Sangui and Li Zicheng. From the beginning to the end, Zhuowen spoke very carefully and seriously. His expression was very focused, and his voice was very soft. Mu Qinxue gently leaned on Zhuowen's chest and quietly listened to Zhuowen's narration. This scene made the people outside the courtyard sigh softly. Without a doubt, this was definitely a pair of ill-fated mandarin ducks. Moyan Wushang, who was sitting cross-legged at the edge of the flowers, slowly put away his zither. His beautiful eyes looked at the two quiet people in the flowers, sighed softly, and left the courtyard. "Zhuowen Wushang taught me a song. I like it. I Wushang. I'll sing it for you. Do you want to hear it?" Mu Qinxue looked at Zhuowen. "Wushang." Zhuowen kissed Mu Qinshue's forehead and smiled. "All right. Let me hear it." "Hee." Mu Qinxue giggled. Unknowingly, she had taken out a zither from her spirit ring. "When did you learn how to play the zither?" Zhuowen couldn't help but laugh. Mu Qinxue gently stroked the zither and faintly said, "Zhuowen, maybe I really don't remember you, but I know you. Ever since I woke up from my coma, Wuxiang has been telling me your story and the story between us. I listened to Wuxiang's story and listened to Wuxiang's music. I could feel your feelings. I thought that I should do something for you. So I learned the zither from Wuxiang and practiced my favorite song. Because I only want to play this song for you. I only hope that every time I play this song, there will still be a place in my heart that belongs to you. There will still be a memory that belongs to you. At this point, Mu Qinxue smiled. Her smile was very bright. After that smile, she gently plucked the zither strings. Her slender fingers were like flowing water as they streaked across the zither strings. Who holds my hand and restrains my madness for half my life? Who kisses my eyes and covers my wandering for half my life? Who caresses my face and comforts my sorrow for half my life? Who holds my heart and melts the frost for half my life? Who holds my shoulder and drives me to silence for the rest of my life? Who calls my heart and covers my desolation for the rest of my life? Who abandons me and leaves me alone for the rest of my life? Who can understand my intentions and make me have no regrets in this life? Who can help me move unhindered for 10,000 years? Who can pour my heart into my heart? Who can bury my sorrow and laugh at the vanity of the world? Cover my lips and dispel my wandering for the rest of my life. Hold my arms and dispel my frivolity for the rest of my life. Hold your hand and accompany you in your madness for 1,000 years. Kiss your eyes and accompany you for 10,000 reincarnations. The melody was leisurely, like the flowing water of high mountains, the empty springs of deep valleys, the mountain streams, and the bright moon hanging high in the sky. Accompanied by the beautiful melody, Mu Qinshue's clear and melodious voice, like an oriole, was slowly released. Her voice rose and fell, and it was soul-stirring. The echoes of the empty valley were endless. Hold your hand and accompany you in your madness for 1,000 years. Kiss your eyes and accompany you for 10,000 reincarnations. Zhuowen murmured in a low voice. Looking at the woman who was focused on playing the zither, Zhuowen's smile became deeper and deeper. However, the sorrow in his eyes became deeper and deeper. When the song slowly fell, Zhuowen walked behind Mu Qinshuo and slowly hugged her. With a soft snoring sound, Zhuowen realized that the beauty in front of him had already fallen into a deep sleep. Zhuowen gently hugged the beauty and entered the room. He gently placed her on the bed and covered her with a blanket, silently watching the beauty's appearance. Qinshuo, I will definitely cure you. You can be assured, I swear. Zhuowen softly muttered. Soon after, he kissed her smooth and spotlessly white forehead before resolutely leaving the house. Only, what Zhuowen did not see was that after he turned and left, the beauty lying on the bed slightly moved her eyelids. Walking out of the yard, Zhuowen looked at Feng Xiao and said, Mother, where is Qinshue's memory bead? Feng Xiao carefully took out a bead from her chest and handed it to Zhuowen as she said, Zhuowen, Qinshue's memory bead has been shattered too much. Although I have tried my best to slow it down, it is of no use. Zhuowen carefully took the memory bead. At this moment, the surface of the memory bead was covered in cracks, as if it could shatter at any moment. When the memory bead completely shatters, it will affect Qinshue's soul. At that time, Qinshue's soul will begin to collapse, and there won't be much time left for Qinshuo. Feng Xiao said with a sigh. Then what should I do? Zhuowen slowly clenched his fists as he looked at Feng Xiao in a sad voice. There are only two ways. One is to find a way to stop Qinshue's soul from collapsing, and the other is to find a saint master to solve Qinshue's current situation. Feng Xiao said this and gave a soft sigh. Without a doubt, these two methods were very difficult. Once it was something that touched the soul, it would be very hard to obtain or even rare. It would be hard to find something like this in the 4 large regions. As for a Saint Master level Arcana Master, there was no need to think about it in the 4 large regions. It was impossible for them to exist. Moreover, this memory bead won't last for long. At most in 2 months, this memory bead will completely shatter. Feng Xiao said with a sigh. Only 2 months. Zhuowen slightly knit his brows. 2 months was just too short for him. Even if he went to the Central Earth, it would take more than 2 months. Moreover, he might not even be able to find a Saint Master in the Central Earth. 2 months is too short. Is there no other way to slow it down? Zhuowen said in an urgent voice. There is another way. I remember that the Snow Palace has a profound crystal ice soul that has the ability to freeze souls. If you can obtain this profound crystal ice soul, you can use this profound crystal ice soul to freeze Chen Shui's soul. Perhaps this method can help Chen Shui completely suppress her collapsing soul. Feng Xiao said in a deep voice. Snow Palace? Profound crystal ice soul? Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes lit up. If the profound crystal ice soul was useful, it could really slow down Chen Shui's collapsing soul. Let's go to the Snow Palace. Zhuowen took a deep breath. After discussing with Feng Xiao and the others, he waved his sleeve and left the Azure Dragon Palace. With the divine wings of wind and thunder, and the laws of the void, if I fly day and night, I should be able to cross the eastern earth and enter the North Pole in a month. Standing on the endless yellow sand, Zhuowen looked to the north and muttered in a low voice. Kid, are you seeking death? Flying day and night, even if it's you can't handle it, right? Kid, do you want to die? You can use your flying mount. Xiaohe appeared and warned him. Although the flying mount I have is not bad, it can't compare to my divine wings of wind and thunder, and the laws of the void. I need to reach the North Pole as soon as possible. Zhuowen shook his head. A pair of 10-foot-long purple thunder wings suddenly appeared on his back. At the same time, the laws of the void were attached to his thunder wings. Hung long. Thunder rumbled as Zhuowen entered the void. Like a bolt of lightning, he moved through the void tunnel at an extremely fast speed. This kid is crazy. In his knowledge sea, Xiaohe helplessly looked at the youth moving through the void tunnel. I say Xiaohe, keep an eye on this kid Zhuowen. The void tunnel is not a good place. This kid wants to move forward continuously, so you have to keep an eye on him. Cheng Huang leisurely laid on the back of the divine turtle and calmly said, Damn, you old fox. You sit with your legs crossed all day doing nothing. What right do you have to order this dragon master around? What kind of dog are you? Seeing Cheng Huang like this, Xiaohe immediately said in a bad mood. Hey, please don't confuse me with a dog. That dog is your brother. Don't you think it's an insult to me by calling me your brother? Cheng Huang shook its tail slightly and said with some disdain. Oh, scoundrel old fox. This old master will definitely bite you to death and pluck out all the hair on your body. Chapter 1584. A ghastly sight. White snow fluttered in the sky. This region was enveloped by ice and snow all year round. It was cold and lonely. This was the North Pole of the four regions. A crack appeared in the space at the peak of a snowy mountain that pierced through the clouds. A figure slowly descended on the peak of the snowy mountain. After a month, I finally reached the North Pole. As soon as this figure landed on the peak of the snowy mountain, his footsteps staggered, and he actually directly fell to the ground, panting. The pair of lightning wings on his back was extremely dim, like a candle in the wind that would be extinguished at any time. Xiaohe hovered in front of the figure. Her small eyes stared at the latter with a complicated expression. She sighed. You really are desperate. You've been traveling day and night for a month. You're really lucky to be able to persevere. If it weren't for the support of immortal pills, you would have died of exhaustion long ago. Continuously using the 6 wings of wind and lightning, and the laws of the void, without any rest was an overload for any cultivator. It was very difficult to endure. However, Zhuowen had managed to endure for a month. Of course, during this period, Zhuowen had consumed quite a few immortal pills to barely endure. Otherwise, it was very likely that Zhuowen would have suddenly died on the way. There's still a month. I think you should rest well for a day or two before setting off. Xiaohe felt her heart ache when she saw Zhuowen's appearance. At this moment, Zhuowen could also sense that he had reached his limit. If he continued traveling in this state, he really would not be able to endure it. It just so happens that I'm resting for 2 days. I'll send someone to find out the location of the Snow Palace. Zhuowen had a tired expression. He brought Xiaohe back to the Azure Dragon Hall. Zhuowen, you don't look too good. Are you alright? Zhuowen encountered Lu Hantian's group after entering the Azure Dragon Hall. Lu Hantian asked in concern. Zhuowen waved his hand and said, I'm fine. Where is Chen Shui? Zhuowen, come with me. Chen Shui has been talking about you during this time, and in order to not let her forget you, I've already brought her out of the second layer of the world. I've built a pavilion in the Azure Dragon Square. That way she won't be affected by the flow of time in the second layer of the world. Feng Xiao came in front of Zhuowen, pulled Zhuowen, and took him to a pavilion in the southeast corner of the Azure Dragon Square. After a month, there are even more cracks on the surface of the memory bead, and Chen Shui forgets things even faster. Even if I try to talk to her about things she's familiar with, she completely forgets them not long after. Feng Xiao took out the memory bead. At this moment, there was almost no intact part on the surface of the memory bead. The cracks were densely packed, and it looked extremely horrifying. Chen Shui forgot everything? Looking at the memory bead, Zhuowen revealed a look of sadness. No, she didn't forget the name Zhuowen. She still remembers it very clearly. She knows that Zhuowen is very important to her. She didn't forget the song she played for you a month ago. She knows that this song was played for you alone. Speaking of this, Feng Xiao was moved as she continued. Although her memories will gradually disappear with the memory bead, in her heart, there will always be a place for you, the most important place. Zhuowen felt his head explode. His nose was a little sour, and his eyes were a little dry. The softest place in the deepest part of his heart seemed to have been touched. I'll go in and see her. Oh, that's right, Mother. Now that I've come to the North Pole, you can arrange for your subordinates to search for the location of the Snow Palace. After Zhuowen finished speaking, he stepped into the courtyard. This pavilion was very quiet. In this secluded atmosphere, there was a faint elegance to it. It was like a lotus flower in a lotus pond, blooming its most beautiful petals. No one was there to see it, but it still proudly bloomed. In the courtyard, there were fake mountains, small bridges, flowing water, birds singing, green grass, and hundreds of flowers in full bloom. In the middle of the fake mountains, small bridges, flowers, and green grass, there was a white jade pavilion. In the center of the pavilion, there was a white jade table and a stone bench. An extraordinary figure was quietly sitting on the stone bench. Her jade-like hands were placed on the table, and there was an ancient zither placed on top of it. This figure seemed to be thinking with her head lowered, as if she was recalling something. Perhaps it was because she couldn't remember anything, but her brows slightly knit together, and her nose wrinkled a little. Dang, dang, dang. Light footsteps attracted the figure's attention. She slightly raised her head and stared at Zhuowen walking over. Her beautiful eyes revealed a look of doubt as she asked, You. Who are you? You. Zhuowen's figure stiffened, but his expression was calm. He came to the pavilion and sat in front of Mu Qinshui. He smiled and said, My name is Zhuowen. Do you still remember me? I seem to know the name Zhuowen. Mu Qinshui suddenly sat up straight. She pulled up her sleeves and stretched out her flawless white arm. There were 2 lines of words engraved on her arm. These words were incomparably bright red, as if they were carved on her skin with some kind of sharp weapon. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. He grabbed Mu Qinshui's arm and stared at the 2 lines of words on her arm. The contents of these 2 lines of words were very simple, but Zhuowen felt as if his eyes were about to split open. The softest part in the deepest part of his heart felt as if it had been ruthlessly stirred. Zhuowen could no longer control his extremely sour nose. Tears began to flow down uncontrollably like a heavy downpour. They streaked across Zhuowen's cheeks and hung on his chin like a waterfall. It looked extremely sad and beautiful. Zhuowen is the most important person. Don't forget. When I see Zhuowen, I must play the song that I'm best at for him. It's also the only song that I know. The contents of these 2 lines of words were very simple. There was no unforgettable oath, no promise that would last until the end of time, and no grand words that would last forever. There were only 2 lines of very simple words. She didn't want to forget an important person, and wanted to play the only song that she knew for the important person. These 2 lines. How could Zhuowen not imagine the scene of Mu Qinshui carving these 2 lines of words? Perhaps it was because she was afraid that she would forget, So because of the anxiety in her heart, she slowly carved these 2 lines of words on her flawless arm. By carving these 2 lines of words, she had achieved her goal. She knew that even if she would forget many things, as long as the 2 lines of words on her arm did not disappear, she would never forget the name Zhuowen. She would always leave the most important position in her heart for this man named Zhuowen. Chen Shui, why are you doing this? Why are you not afraid of hurting yourself to remember the name Zhuowen? Zhuowen gently stroked the 2 lines of words on Mu Qinshua's arm. The blood had already turned a bit dark red because of the passage of time. Seeing these 2 lines of shocking words, Zhuowen felt an unbearable pain in his heart. Actually, every morning when I wake up, I will notice these 2 lines of words in my hand. I know that I have always been waiting for a man named Zhuowen. He is a very important person to me, a person that I do not want to forget. Although I am normally very forgetful, I do not want to forget this name. I know that if I really choose to forget this name, I will regret it, and I will be annoyed, as if I have lost everything. After saying this, Mu Qinshua's eyes revealed a trace of sadness. She stared at Zhuowen and said, "You are Zhuowen, right? You are the Zhuowen that I have always been waiting for, right? I have already been sitting in the courtyard waiting for 20 days. Every day when people came in, I would ask them if they were Zhuowen, but they would all say no. I know that the person I have been waiting for has not appeared yet. So I have always been thinking about why the person I have been waiting for has not appeared in front of me after all this time." Zhuowen gently took Mu Qinshui into his embrace and said with a bit of guilt, "Qinshui, I'm sorry. I have neglected you during this time. I was too selfish not being by your side." "It's fine. Auntie Xiao said it before. The reason why you weren't by my side before was because you were trying to find a way to cure me. You wanted to cure my amnesia." Mu Qinshui gently hugged Zhuowen, and this was the first time her eyes revealed a trace of sadness. She said in a soft voice, "I know that I don't have much time left, so can you stay with me during this final period of time? I don't want to forget you." Zhuowen's heart was finally moved. He tightly hugged Mu Qinshui and firmly said, "Qinshui, nothing will happen to you. I will cure you. Whether it's cured or not, this is not the most important thing to me. I just want you to stay by my side, and we can happily live together for a while, all right? I know that I am forgetful, but I will try my best to remember every action and every word you say. Can you stay with me?" Mu Qinshui weakly leaned against Zhuowen's shoulder. Crystal-like tears flowed down her face like pearls, and her voice was choked with emotions. Perhaps even Mu Qinshui did not know why she was this emotional and couldn't control herself. "Qinshui, I'm sorry. I have spent too little time with you. I will stay with you from now on, and will not be separated from you." Zhuowen hugged Mu Qinshui's waist, and his lips curled into a bitter smile. That's right. He had always ignored Mu Qinshui's feelings. Perhaps Mu Qinshui had already realized her condition, but she was not sad about it. However, because he was not by her side, she was crying like a child. Zhuowen knew that he had made a fatal mistake. He knew that Mu Qinshui's request was very simple. As long as he stayed by her side and gave her the most beautiful memories, that was what she wanted the most. "I will always be with you." Zhuowen gently stroked Mu Qinshui's back. His eyelids drooped and a deep weariness filled his heart, making his eyelids even heavier. Chapter 1585. Storming the Snow Palace. Zhuowen slept for 3 days and 3 nights. He had used the 6 wings of wind and lightning, and the laws of the void non-stop for an entire month. Even if Zhuowen's body was made of steel, it would still be difficult for him to endure. During these 3 days, Mu Qinshui had been by Zhuowen's side the entire time. She had placed Zhuowen on her lap as she gently fiddled with his messy hair. Her gaze was gentle. Although her memories were deteriorating day by day, she knew that she had not forgotten the man before her. Not only did the man before her exist in her memories, he also existed in her heart. He had an unshakable position in her heart. Her memories might disappear, but she had always kept that position in her heart for him. "If there really comes a day when I will completely forget about you, Please believe that there will always be an important position in my heart reserved for you. That is the only position that belongs to you. No one can replace it. Mu Qinshui gently stroked Zhuo Wen's hair as a sweet smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. However, she grabbed Mu Qinshui's lily-white hand with one hand. Mu Qinshui was startled. Soon after, her beautiful eyes shifted downwards. At this moment, the man who should have been sleeping soundly before her had already opened his eyes. His clear eyes were filled with attachment, dominance, stubbornness, and tenacity. That important position in your heart is mine. Your memories can only be filled with my image. I will help you settle everything. I will also help you cure your illness. As long as you listen to me, I, Zhuowen, will help you no matter what. With that, Zhuowen suddenly flipped over and pulled Mu Qinshui into his embrace. Their eyes met. He stared at the woman before him for a very long time before he said domineeringly, "You are my woman, so I am your mountain. I will support everything for you. All you need to do is lie in my embrace. I will take care of everything." After saying that, Zhuowen did not wait for Mu Qinshui to reply. He kissed her fiercely. This kiss was very domineering and also very attached. Days passed, and during this time, Zhuowen had sent out many Ryuka martial artists to scout the North Pole. They had also found out the exact location of the Snow Palace. On the other hand, Mu Qinshui's condition was getting worse by the day. Her memory was starting to become fragmented. She would immediately forget what she had just said. Although Zhuowen didn't say anything, Mu Qinshui could feel that something was wrong with her. Her eyes were getting dimmer and dimmer, and the light in her eyes was fading away. "Zhuowen, I can feel that I only have half a month left. Maybe after half a month my soul will collapse. You don't have to hide it from me. I can feel the state of my soul." Mu Qinshui's beautiful eyes stared at the man in front of her. At this moment, she realized that the man in front of her was getting further and further away from her. She didn't like this feeling, but it was very real. Zhuowen kissed Mu Qinshui's forehead gently and said softly, "My woman, I've said it before. I am your mountain. I will support you. Don't you still have half a month? I have already found a way to stop your soul from collapsing. Are you leaving? Are you leaving? Are you abandoning me?" Mu Qinshui suddenly choked with sobs. Her jade-like hand grabbed Zhuo Wen's arm as she stared at him with her tear-stained eyes. At this moment, Zhuowen could see the deep helplessness in Mu Qinshui's eyes. It was a sad loneliness, as well as a kind of fear of losing something important. At this moment, Zhuowen could see many emotions in Mu Qinshui's eyes. His heart was filled with pain, and this pain spread throughout his body, making him want to roar out. But he didn't. He suppressed the emotions in his heart. He knew that Mu Qinshui didn't have much time left. The profound crystal ice soul that Feng Xiao mentioned, he had to obtain it as soon as possible. "Qinshui, I have to leave for a bit, but I swear I will be back soon." After Zhuowen said this, he left the courtyard under Mu Qinshui's unwilling gaze. "Zhuowen, we've found the location of the Snow Palace. What should we do next?" Walking out of the Azure Dragon Square, Long Xiaotian, Lu Hantian, and the others all came forward to ask Zhuowen, "I don't have much time. Let's directly attack the Snow Palace." Zhuowen said in a soft voice, "Attack the Snow Palace?" Everyone was stunned, but they didn't have any objections. The current Ryuka had already developed to a very strong degree. They had overturned the Blue Dragon Hall and the Burning Heaven sect. Although the Snow Palace was very strong, it was only on the same level as the Burning Heaven sect. Moreover, the Snow Palace's palace master, Yuan Jibai, was like a stray dog, running away from Burning Heaven City. If Yuan Jibai didn't act smart this time, Zhuowen wouldn't mind directly destroying the Snow Palace. The North Pole was covered in snow all year round, scattering in all directions like goose feathers. The Snow Palace was located in the Snow Mountain Range, which was the coldest and highest mountain range in the North Pole. This mountain range had countless branches, and on the branches, there were many other forces. They were densely packed and looked very magnificent. The main branch of the Snow Mountain Range was the location of the Snow Palace, and it was respected by the other forces of the Snow Mountain Range. At the foot of the Snow Mountain Range, a tall figure walked over step by step. He walked step by step towards the main branch of the snow mountain range, where the snow palace was located. His footsteps were very firm and determined. Who is this person? How dare he trespass into the snow mountain range? Is he looking for death? Look at his clothes, he's definitely not from the snow palace. Moreover, he's heading towards the snow palace. Is he planning to break into the snow palace? This figure, who was climbing up the snow mountain range, quickly attracted the attention of countless forces of the surrounding branches. Who are you? Why are you trespassing into the snow mountain range? A loud shout was heard, and a muscular man wearing an ice crystal armor blocked the path ahead with a dozen or so subordinates with terrifying auras. It's the Snow Armor Palace. The Snow Armor Palace is the most powerful of the 4 forces of the Snow Palace. Now that this unknown person is walking towards the Snow Palace, the Snow Armor Palace is planning to take action. The Snow Armor Palace's palace master Xuehong is also here. His strength has reached the peak of the profound Saint Realm. His strength is not to be underestimated. Many factions from the surrounding branch factions were paying attention to this side. There were even many factions who cast pitiful gazes at the lone figure. The Snow Armor Palace was the most powerful of the 4 forces of the Snow Palace. If the Snow Palace did not take action, the Snow Armor Palace could dominate the entire snow mountain range. Brother Xuehong, you're quite fast, aren't you? This person is just one person. There's no need for Brother Xuehong to take action, right? A somewhat feminine voice was heard, and a white-clothed man with an extremely slender waist, like a water snake, landed not far from the people of the Snow Armor Palace with several people. Although this person was a man, his words and actions were like a woman's. They were pretentious and made people feel nauseous. It's the palace master of the soft snow palace, Shui. Let's all hide. Don't let him take a fancy to us. Seeing the pretentious man, many of the warriors of the surrounding branches hid far away, as if they were avoiding the plague. They did not dare to get close to Shui. It was not that Shui's strength was terrifying and made people avoid her. Instead, Shui had a strange habit that made people feel extremely disgusted. Shui liked men and would often dress herself up beautifully. She was a typical sissy. The corner of Xuehong's eyes twitched. He also kept a certain distance from Shui. He could not stand Shui's sissy behavior. Who are you? You don't seem to be a disciple of any of the branches of the Snow Mountain Range. If you don't want to get hurt, hurry up and get lost, Xuehong said as he coldly stared at the young man in front of him. Ayo Xuehong, why are you so fierce? You scared me so much that my heart almost jumped out of my chest. Shui snorted and stomped his foot. That pretentious posture made Xuehong's face turn incomparably ashen. This little brother looks quite handsome. I wonder what's your name? Why don't you come to Soft Snow Hall as a guest? I will properly entertain you, Shui said as he looked at the young man in front of him with a grin. Seeing Shui's coquettish smile, Zhuowen's face turned slightly green. This Shui was really a sissy. The sissy Zhuowen could not help but want to beat him up. You better not block my path. Those who block me will die. If you don't want to die, then get lost. Zhuowen coldly spat out these words. Immediately after, he continued to walk towards the main branch as if nothing had happened. He did not put Xuehong and Shui in his eyes at all. As soon as these words were spoken, the surroundings immediately fell into silence. Everyone stared blankly at the young man, who continued to walk forward. Many people were unable to wrap their heads around it. This kid was a little too arrogant. He actually told Xuehong and Shui to get lost or die. Haha, this little brother really has a personality. I like it. Shui laughed loudly. However, within his long and narrow eyes, a terrifying light that could take one's soul burst forth. This was a sign of his anger. On the other hand, Xuehong was much more direct. He directly expressed his anger on his face. His face was almost distorted and ferocious. His breathing was heavy, just like a ferocious beast. You are really courting death. Take this kid down. I want to see what qualifications he has to speak so arrogantly. Under Xuehong's command, the dozen or so subordinates behind him turned into a dozen or so figures and instantly rushed towards Zhuowen. However, these dozen or so figures did not get close to Zhuowen. They were blocked by golden sword rays. The countless sword rays were extremely fast. They turned into countless sword shadows in front of their eyes. In an instant, the dozen or so figures that rushed towards Zhuowen were cut into countless pieces by the countless sword rays. They were killed in one strike. I've said it before. Those who block my path will die. After killing the dozen or so figures in a clean manner, Zhuowen's gaze landed on Xuehong. With a thought, the killer four sacred sword arrays swept out like a gust of wind, instantly enveloping Xuehong. Break for me! Xuehong roared out furiously and summoned his saint artifact. However, the moment he summoned his saint artifact, before he could even unleash the power of the saint artifact, a large hand shot over and snatched the saint artifact from his hand. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.